The only evenings that I do anything is I watch wrestling with the wife, and my place is down. I believe it's Wednesday night. Otherwise, any time after 5 my time um, would be
Yeah.
fine.
Oh, my Audacity is just now opening. That's so weird.
Well, but it did open, so that's
Yeah. Now let's see if it'll record stuff. Hello. Yep, it's recording stuff. That's good. All right.
yeah. Better
So
check and see if mine records.
we are
Hello,
live.
hello. Test, test. Yes. Okay.
What's
Hello,
this,
live.
What's this sticker I'm seeing in the corner of your laptop? Is that anything interesting?
This one here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is a sticker for renewing my PDGA membership several years ago. That was, I don't know, that was 2021, 2022. That's the Professional Disc Golf Association.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And I wasn't a professional, but the benefit was that if you used their app for your scoring, they would tally it, and every 3 months, I believe, there is a organization-wide rating system that they use.
Cool.
And it allows, basically, it's, I think, professional golfers. It's like handicapping for professional golf, kind of. That's as
Yeah,
close.
I don't know what that means, but
well, you know, if somebody says they're like, have you ever heard somebody say they're a scratch golfer?
nope.
You've never heard that term? Okay.
Nope. I've heard of a handicap in golf.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's the So
I just don't know what it means. I hear about it, I got a 3 handicap. I don't know what that means.
To even up the score, you add or subtract whatever that number is, and that will put everybody on the same baseline as far as talent, ability. So it's a way to compare that. Hello, Doug.
Doug has joined. What up, Doug? So it's like, so that way you can golf against a more talented golfer and still have somewhat of a shot.
Exactly. Your score will still be your score. Like, he was 8 throws better than me, but it's because he's 1100 rated and I'm only 1045 rated. And so that you see why that person beat you, but you see a more explanation as to why. It's so and it allows you to compare. Everybody that's part of the PDGA gets rated, so I mean you can see how good you are compared to anybody that's
so would it be kind of like if I was to play one-on-one basketball with Michael Jordan to 20 points and he goes ahead and gives me 19?
Yeah, he spots you 19. Yeah, it's that same kind of thing.
He's still going to win.
Well, sure, but you had a chance there for for what, 3 minutes? You had it. You were in the game, but same kind of thing. But so that's I have actually I have 1, 2, 3 on here where I did that. You would renew for a year, and they would give you this little kit of things. They'd give you a particular disc that they were giving out, your card, and a sticker, and a couple other things to make it feel more worthwhile for the exorbitant fee that they used. So that's
cool. We have, I know I've mentioned it before, but we have just two blocks down the road is a disc golf course.
Oh, cool beans. Is it, do you know how many holes it is? Is it 9 or 18?
I have no idea, but every once in a while I'll drive by and I'll see, 3 or 4 guys with big bags with full of discs throwing stuff.
Is it a park or is it by itself?
It's the old, it's the land that our community building is on. There's a baseball field adjacent. There's a small community museum, but it's a lot of property. There's way more land than there is building. And it kind of butts up against the river. So there's also some woodland out there as well. So it's
like a whole little rec thing.
Yeah. But every time I drive by and I see guys over there playing, and I don't mean to say guys because I think only dudes play golf, but it's literally only guys I ever see playing disc golf.
Typically,
and, I always think I always drive by and go, wonder if Ed's playing disc golf right now, and I wonder if he looks like all these dirty hippies. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Probably, yeah. I dress down in clothes that can get dirty because I have a hard time standing on my feet, and I got a big dorky looking bag and some kind of cap on, probably backwards, and I got towels hanging everywhere. Yeah, it's The only thing I don't have is a token tool in my hand. That's the only. Yeah. Oh, not that disc golfers do that. That's not what I'm saying. Yeah, and I don't drink either. Not that disc golfers do that, but just to set the record straight. I'm straight edge.
Is that a McFarlane Spider-Man shirt you're wearing?
I believe the images over here are. Yeah, this could be. I mean, this could be anybody. It's kind of hard to tell, but
I think it's all that's definitely
McFarlane here. Yeah,
I think the big one is too.
Yeah, so it probably is. They did Yep.
Love me some Todd McFarlane Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's on my list to go back and read just like his chunk, just to experience it by itself.
Me too. I've got the Epic collections, and I'm still in the middle of reading the what's his name? The dude that had the huge run on the Hulk. Peter David. I'm reading his Hulk. Yeah, I'm reading his Hulk run now. Okay. I've finally gotten to the Dale Keown issues when he merges into Bruce Banner. It's like one of my favorite. It's funny because there was a period there in the 90s where there were certain artists on certain books, and they were mainly over at Marvel. You had at one point Todd McFarlane on Spider-Man. I don't think it all happened at the same time, but around the same time.
But in your head it did, so that's okay.
It's like Todd McFarlane on Spider-Man, and what was his name? The guy on Ghost Rider, Frank
Teixeira, or Frank Miller, or
Mark Teixeira.
Mark Teixeira,
yeah. And then Jim Lee on the X-Men, Dale Keown on the Hulk, and it's like I look at each one of those, and for me, because that was prime comic book collecting for me. I was, good Lord, 17, 18, 19, 20, around there. It's like I look back at those times, and I'm Todd McFarlane was born to draw Spider-Man. Mark Teixeira was born to draw Ghost Rider. It's like this is what, and I hate to say that because then it's like, obviously they did those books and then they went on to do other stuff. So it's almost like I'm saying everything you guys did after sucks, because this is what you were born to do. And now that you're no more, because that's not true, because Pitt was pretty cool. Spawn's pretty cool, you know?
But that's your opinion. Yeah. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's not right. It's not wrong. It's yours. Hold on to that and tell anybody that asks.
And
I think this is the best. I don't have to explain. I just think this is the best. And just go with that.
And I'm assuming everybody in the world, when you say the name Spider-Man, for example, you immediately get an image of Spider-Man in your head.
I'm sure.
And for me, it's Todd McFarlane. For the Hulk, it's Dale Keown. For Superman, it's John Byrne. That's the image I see. That's my default for those characters.
Yeah, I think everybody is like that. You'll have these old timers that'll get on there and they'll be able to explain all of the. It's like, but if I say Dr. Fate, whose picture jumps to your mind? There is that one image that character is, and it's like, oh well, it's by such and such.
Yeah.
Then there you go. Whatever else you might say, that is your favorite rendition of that character. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what it is.
What's funny, I think the Dale Keown part though is the funniest part, because that Hulk, his Hulk, really, not just any Hulk that he's ever drawn in general, but that Hulk from that time where he merges with Bruce Banner is such a infinitesimal part of the Hulk's history.
Right.
And look, you get somebody who starts reading comic books today, for example. Maybe they've been reading the new Hulk series, which looks really good, but I haven't read yet. Right. And then somebody goes, hey, here's the Infinity Gauntlet. You should read this because you like those Avengers movies. Read this. One of their first questions may be, why is the Hulk in like a purple jumpsuit? Why does he look? I mean, if you've watched the Avengers movies, you probably get it more than others because they did the same thing in
Right.
But still, I'm blabbing. I'm just blabbing away, man.
No, not at all.
Blabbity blab blab.
I was going to say, the new Hulk. Isn't that written by the artist that you like?
No.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember I want to say it's like I can't think of the guy's name.
It's not, or is it being drawn by, isn't Daniel Warren Johnson, isn't that the guy that you like?
I love him. He's not, no. Well, if he is on the Hulk right now, I have not been told, and I would freak
okay.
out.
I thought he was involved, maybe at the beginning of this volume or something, but I thought he was involved in this volume.
The storyline that's going on right now, or at least the last I saw, I know that the storyline before that, the creative team before that, was Donny Cates and Ryan Otley from Invincible fame.
Not that that's bad.
No,
so,
that was it was some pretty cool stuff. It's the same guy. I'm pretty sure the artist is the same guy that did Thor while Donny Cates was on Thor.
Philip Kennedy Johnson.
Yes, I knew
there
it was
we go.
Johnson.
There's my I'm like, it's three names, and it's like, isn't that the same? It's like, no, it's a completely different dude.
Yeah.
So okay, my bad.
No, Daniel Warren Johnson is doing a book over at Image called
the
Moon.
Isn't he doing the Transformers, G.I. Joe, Void Rivals?
Is that what it's writing called? Transformers.
Okay.
I think he drew the first 6 issues.
Okay.
And then like 6 issues were drawn by Jorge Garcia, which was really cool.
That's right.
But yeah, Daniel Warren Johnson's writing the Transformers.
Okay.
The Moon Will Follow Us. Is that the name of that book? I can't remember now.
Could be. That sounds close if that's not the actual title.
It's really good. There's like 7 or 8 issues out right now, and I'm only about 4 or 5 issues in. The Moon is Following Us. Yeah. It's Daniel Warren Johnson writing. He's doing part of the art chores along with Riley Rosmo from Proof.
Right. Okay.
Because the book is set in 2 different worlds. There's like almost a virtual reality world, kinda. It's a dream world. It's the real world and the dream world. So if you're in the real world, Daniel Warren Johnson's doing the art, and then if you're in the dream world, it's really good. It's really fun. It's a fun book. And then of course, I am getting all the Skybound Energon books, G.I. Joe, Transformers.
Did you see that Transformers book on Kickstarter this week?
Yeah, I didn't read a lot of Transformers in the comic books back then. I was reading the hell out of G.I. Joe, and I was watching both cartoons, but I didn't read. I had a few issues. There's like key issues. There's that one really great issue early on that has Shockwave on the cover that looks like a fully painted Shockwave. Yeah.
I like to, it's way out of my price range. And plus I don't have the interest enough to even contemplate the price range, but it's fun to watch because the G.I. Joe one that they did last summer, and then this one shows that those people are still out there that read those books when they were coming out. And they still are comic book fans, and they still watch for stuff like that, because there is no way that today's people are going to spend $2.5 million for those books. It's no, you need some help. And that's why it's all of us. That's like, oh dog, I remember that off the rack. It's like, I've been waiting and I've been hoping that, and so that's why I like to watch those.
The Transformers, Harold Jennett is a huge Transformers fan. And I know he read those. We've talked about, he's read those comics. Those were his books back in the day.
Yeah.
But I had a couple years back when IDW still had the property, I had gotten a collection of the original Marvel issues, like the first 6 or 12 issues or something that IDW put out. And I don't remember if I bought it or if it was a borrow from Comixology Unlimited, but I sat down to start reading it, and I couldn't get through the first issue. There is so much text in that first issue. There's this double page splash where they introduce all of the Transformers, and it's so clunky and there's so much text that I was just like, I don't, this is not
I
G.I.
can't
Joe.
do
This is not, you know. So, but it's, you know, it's, I don't know if you saw that post I put out on Blue Sky where I was asking Titan Books, you know, if they're ever gonna
about Conan.
Let's put those in paperback. Sure, I can get them all digitally, you know, and but I would love to see a big collection of all the Marvel, Conan, you know, all these collections on my bookshelf. But I'm not going to spend $150,
right,
just because it's a fucking hardback. You know, I'm just not going to do that.
Which tells me that their point for doing that is to make money, not to get those in the hands of the people that want them. Now, they may do that ultimately by doing the soft cover or whatever, maybe. But right now, they're like, oh, man, we got this property. We can make some bank on it. Let's do it this way. And there are those people that, regardless, they want it so bad that they'll pay up for it. So it's like, okay.
Yeah.
But the rest of us are like, I want it, but not that much.
As a business model, I get it. You know, you get that, you get all the hardbacks out there. You charge $150 a piece. You tap into that nostalgia market of readers who have money. And then when the print runs are done, then when you're going to reprint them, then, you know, I get it. Why put them out on paperback now?
Right. First.
And, you know, some of these people that may spend $150 on a hardcover may go, I don't know, maybe I'll spend $30 on this paperback.
Whereas they would be much less likely to do it the other way around.
Yep.
I already have all the softbacks. I'm not going to buy that. Plus two,
replace all my softbacks with hardbacks.
Although I do know people that do that.
Hey, you know what? If you've got the money, go for it. Plus, anymore, it's got to be something though, like a Conan, that would make me go out and buy the physical media, because I don't have room for it in the house.
That's me.
I already feel sorry for all my kids for having to go through all my crap when I'm dead. And frankly, I'm thinking about putting a will together that just says, look, if you want to just burn the house down when we're done and just destroy everything in it,
ask them to donate it to somebody, like donate it to a college, or send it to Professor Allen and let him send packets out to people, or, you know, stuff like that. Not Doug, that other people can't do that, but I know that Professor Allen does that a lot.
Doug, if you're still watching, what do you think about all these comic book controversies we're talking about? Let us know, Doug. It's been a while since Doug has joined us, hasn't it?
That I've noticed, yes.
I think it has, or at least that Doug has let us know. Maybe he's been lurking. You know,
he may have lurked.
There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Did you ever watch How I Met Your Mother?
No.
Love that show. They just, you know, one of the more popular podcast genres, of course, is the rewatch show, and it's getting to the point where a lot of the people from those shows are now doing their own podcasts
for the rewatch.
For the rewatch. And so they just started one called How I Made Your Mother.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's got one of the guys, the main guy, Ted, and then one of the two guys that created the show. And I've really been enjoying it because the character of Ted in the show is a huge Star Wars fan. All the guys are. Ted, Marshall, and Barney. They're all just huge Star Wars fans. And every 3 years, Doug says, let's see.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for being with us today then.
Nice. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate that. Working on Saturdays sucks.
Yeah.
Working sucks. Working just.
Yes, it does.
Anyway, in the show, they do a whole episode where the three of them get together every 3 years to watch the trilogy.
Oh, cool.
And
okay.
So it they go back in the show like 9 years or something. And each time they sit down to watch the trilogy, they're like, I wonder what life for us is going to be like 3 years from now. And
right. The next time we do that. Yeah. Okay.
But then listening to this podcast to find out that the guy, Josh Radnor, who plays Ted, it's not that he dislikes Star Wars. He's just not he's just not a big Star Wars fan. And in fact, there was a moment in one of the episodes where he says something about, well, and isn't that in one of the first Star Wars film, right? And I'm like, oh, that just hurts my heart because Ted has said there's an episode in the show where Ted is going to marry this girl, and he has her sit down to watch Star Wars for the first. He finds out she's never watched Star Wars,
and she
he
doesn't
has
like
her.
it.
Yeah, he has her
Oh
sit down to
no.
watch it just to see if she likes it. She hated it, but she tells him that she really loved it, and it's like that's when his best friend was like, okay, you're the right girl for him, because you don't have to like it, but you have to know that he
likes it. Yes,
and
that's the key.
He watches it when he's sick. So
Doug says here, those hardcovers are too pricey for me. LOL. Now that makes me want to say, I do support those on Kickstarter for other entities. Like just recently, I got in my Poison Elves collection, the second volume.
Nice.
I've been doing the She stuff that Billy Tucci's been putting out.
Mm-hmm.
I've been getting Witchblade and Darkness as they've been coming out on Kickstarter.
Yeah, see, when you have a creator doing that, especially like Billy Tucci in the She, I get, oh my God, if I had the money to support that kind of stuff, I'd be throwing money at it left and right, because I love the idea that creators nowadays, especially old school creators, have been making these independent books forever, have this option to say, hey, I want to take my collection and
my stuff.
Yeah. I like that. I like that they have that option. And
I just recently got in the second volume of John Sable, also from Mike Grell. Yeah.
So both Poison Elves and John Sable, both books I remember. Remember seeing them on the shelves. I know my older brother had some John Sable issues, but I don't know that I've ever read. I know I picked up, I think, an issue of Poison Elves once, because I'm like, ooh, elves. It'll be like ElfQuest and Elflord. And it's not. It's not at all.
No. He makes it a point that it's not like that. And he says so. So
I think it was because of that I was like, ooh, is it an ElfQuest? Screw this title, and never went back to it. But yeah.
So I will reach in the pocket there and pull out, but it's there are just particular properties, I guess, that and the mass market properties like that, G.I. Joe and Transformers. I remember them, but they just don't they don't convince me enough to reach into my pocket for those. I hold off for Poison Elves and stuff like that.
And
Doug, you've got some taste, dog. Mike Grell, yes, awesome.
Mike, the first time I ever read Green Arrow was the Longbow Hunters.
Yes,
and this was after it came out because my brother bought them. And then I fell out of liking Green Arrow until Kevin Smith.
Okay,
and I remember, because I was always a huge Kevin Smith fan, and I'm like, should I read? It's Green Arrow. It's a guy that shoots arrows. What?
No,
it's so stupid. And then I read it and was just like, he's like, probably, it's always been Superman, Spider-Man. And then if we're talking just straight up superheroes, maybe Green Arrow at that point, maybe Blue Beetle. But
the thing that I always remember from that Kevin Smith run is the introduction of Onomatopoeia, which I think is one of the coolest villains that I can remember.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an awesome concept.
I remember when he put that issue out and he put online, he was like, I'm just surprised nobody's done this yet. He goes, I had this idea and I was sure it's been done, and it wasn't. And he was just so surprised. And
plus that's one of my top 10 favorite words too. Onomatopoeia. I mean, that's
a good word. And that's one of those characters that has, he still shows up every once in a while,
Yeah. He's not like, the Joker or Two-Face or whatever, but people will pull him out and use him for a particular story. And so he's still around and still viable.
Because sometimes you get like a Kevin Smith or just anybody will come in to revitalize a title, and they may create a villain and they just never show up again outside that run. Right. So it's nice, I guess, if you're a creator to go, oh, look, they're still using.
Right. Yeah. Oh, there's my character. Da, 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 da.
It's like I was thinking just the other day, because I'm getting the first episode of Steven or Else ready to go for Tuesday for the Patreon members. And so I'm kind of listening to bits of it, and I'm talking about Youngblood, and I talk a lot about Rob Liefeld and blah, blah, blah. And I started thinking about him and Deadpool, and how, he created Deadpool, and how a lot of people will be online these days going, well, yeah, he created Deadpool, but the Deadpool we see now is not the one. It's like, I don't care. He's still, we would not have what we have today.
That is the bottom line. Whatever he may be now compared to how he started, if he hadn't started, there would be no now. It would be a completely different character with a completely different name, filling that niche. So he wouldn't exist. Now, like we were talking earlier, you can say Joe Kelly's Deadpool is my favorite, and that's fine. But talk to Joe. Where did he get Deadpool? Oh yeah, he didn't come up with it, did he?
Nope.
Yeah. So that's just.
I think that would be pretty cool to be a creator, to create a character, and then 10 years down the road, you see somebody else pick up that character and go, I've got an idea to take this character in a slightly different direction and do something with that character that, as a creator, it's like, I didn't even think about that. That is so, look what he or she has done to my character. It is so awesome.
Perhaps it depends on the creator. I know there are creators that, Now, I tell you what will help that is if that creator still gets residuals from that character, although I absolutely love what other people do with it. That's, that's absolutely fine as it gets more popular and wanes and more popular. But and I've noticed it too with older creators.
Yeah.
They are a lot more, well, I just wasn't a fan of what they did with it.
Right.
It's like, okay, you're kind of being curmudgeonly there. Come on. It's,
Yeah. And that's, because that's the thing. And I think that's the mindset that Rob Liefeld has. If you're going to create a character for a company that you don't own that, you're creating it for them.
Exactly.
And then you have to expect that at some point down the road, they may do something with that character that you may not agree with. I've even seen old school creators who have maybe didn't create a character, but maybe had a run on the comic book that was legendary.
Right.
And then they pipe up about what's being done to the character. Oh, I'm not a big fan. It's like, who cares?
That's okay. You don't have to be a fan, but it's not even your character to begin with. Yeah. So why is anybody asking you? It doesn't. Yeah.
Now, if somebody stole Madman and made a shitty comic book, and Mike Allred was like, I'm not happy with that. That's righteous anger.
That's very fair. That's absolutely very fair.
Yeah, there was something else I was going to say, and now I can't remember what it was. Well, flip, because I'm just babbling. Was there anything else I wanted to tell you before we started recording?
And we can go ahead and count this as the banter too once we start recording, if you want.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Because we've got over half an hour of prime discussion here.
Yeah. I think I'll make a. Well, no, I'm gonna wait until we start recording. I have a proclamation to make about this episode, and I'll make it when we get started. But
okay.
When I put together the episode that's up now for Man of Steel issue number 1, it's like I sat down, I got your file, I got my file, and I'm like, oh my God, this is 2 hours and 15 minutes long. Oh my God. And I don't remember what it came out to be in the end. It wasn't 2 hours. It was less than 2 hours, but still that one episode I think is our longest so far. And then the second one I'm working on now to have it up for the patron members on Monday. And it also is over the original audio is over 2 hours long. Whew. But you know what? You got a good mic. I got a good mic. It sounds great. The stuff sounds great. So I don't have to do a lot of work. I just got to sit and listen to it to make sure that, because every once in a while there might be a glitch that I have to move some stuff around to make it work,
yes.
Or listen to it to make. I just heard myself in my.
Yeah, no, that was me. I'm sorry, I'm doing something here, and I tried to mute it before it. Reverb. Oh, what is that? Yeah. So, Doug S.
Mad what you like? I think too many people get angry about books nowadays. Doug says, and just read what you like. Exactly. There is so much. I think with anything out there, whether it's music, movies, TV, books, comics, there is so much out there. If you pick up something just you don't like, I guarantee there's something over there that you will.
It's so easy to put it down or stop it or change the channel or whatever. It's like, don't dwell on the fact that it was not. Just find what is and continue your journey. I mean, it is so easy. For me, there are so many things that I don't want to be a part of. And so in looking for, a replacement, there are so many more things that I do want to be a part of that it's like, well, Ed, have you read, seen, heard, listened to, gone to? No, but I have all those things filled over here with the things that I do want to do that with. So it's just nowadays, it's so much easier probably than it has ever been to not do the things that you don't want to do and do the things that you do want to do, particularly when it comes to consumption of pop culture.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, unless you just want to wallow and have ammunition to bitch about, well, yeah, fine, go ahead and do that. But if you truly just want to find something you like, if it's not, just put it down and move on to what's next in your list. Ask somebody for a recommendation and try it. Or it's just it's so easy. It's so easy.
It is. And then, because sometimes I can't help but try to look at the flip side. When you have money tied to something, you spend $5 on an issue and you get 3 pages in and you're like, I don't like this at all. Then it's different than when I'm listening, I have 6 new podcasts lined up in my queue and I start the first one and I'm 2 minutes in. Nope.
Pass. Okay. Next.
Nope. And I end up with, of the 6, one that I really like.
One stuck. Yeah. I got you.
You're not paying for those. So,
well, but then a couple things come to mind. First of all, then learn to be more judicious with what you pay for. Vet it a little bit more before you slap down the money. I mean, or find another way to access it that doesn't require money. Not that I'm advocating for anything, but so it's like,
yeah. In this day and age, if you want to find a preview, you're going to find a preview. There's just, you can't not.
Yeah. To see, I'm coming into it cold. Yeah. What is that? Yep. Oh, it's either a review or a movie trailer or a TV show trailer. If that's what it is, you can find snippets of music where people are judging or what is that called? A critic. They're critiquing. Just about anything you can find somebody that has thrown something out there to give you a taste, and you can decide from that. Doug said you're right. There are so many options out there. There's no need to consume content you don't like. Amen. Just yes, preach.
Yeah,
preach. That's
All right. Real quick, one last thing.
Okay.
Reacher season 3 was pretty awesome.
Okay, did I tell you about the first part of the first episode? You're
because I knew that going into. I mean, I watched that first episode that same day. We just talked about it, and so I'm sitting there watching it, and I'm like, did he?
Yeah, you're right. It's like
kill a cop.
He just jumped in that car and stole that car, and he just drove off.
Yeah,
what?
He's acting like it's no big deal that he just shot and killed a cop.
Yep.
And then it kind of went, oh, that's right. And I think if you hadn't said anything, it would have been until they revealed it that I would have been like,
right, yeah. Oh, but it's like, okay, either they're going to back up and they're going to fill me in big time, or something. That my wife and I, we were like looking at each other with like, man, this isn't the Reacher we know. What is going on with this? But yes, I don't. Awesome series.
I feel like I read that book because certain bits.
Okay.
Felt a little familiar, but I don't recall. But yeah, it was a good season. You knew, of course, going into it, as soon as you met that dude that was bigger than him, that they were going to fight.
Please.
You couldn't not.
Before the end of the season, they're going to have it out finally once and for. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was a good season. And then when I finished it, I'm all caught up now on Wheel of Time, which.
Okay, yeah, I saw you mention Wheel of Time on Blue Sky 2, I think.
It's one of my absolute all-time most favorite fantasy book series in the world. Okay. that I've never finished.
Neither have they.
It's no,
Is
they
that the
finally
one that
he died with 2 or 3 books left to finish.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Jordan did, but he had meticulously outlined everything.
So
He knew
okay.
how it was going to end, and so they brought in Brandon Sanderson,
So
and
somebody finished it. Okay.
he just finished it up. And
and I believe it's Wheel of Time that has been in the news this week because of the creation of the dire wolves. Is it Wheel of Time that those are from, or
no? That's
no?
Game
Maybe
of
it's
Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Okay, never mind. I'm gonna not go into that. Then. Yes. Okay.
But the first season, I remember the first season was pretty good. Second season was okay, but the third season is so good. And there's a dude that I've had on Just Another Fanboy before that we talked about the first season, but I email him now when I'm watching. Oh my God, can you believe? And I told him, I said, I just have to remember that I'm not watching Wheel of Time the book. I'm watching a version of the Wheel of Time from the multiverse, because it's so different and so much alike at the same time, and there's so much that they have changed, but it's like there's certain story bits that's like, we're going to do this story bit, but we're going to use 3 completely different characters to do this that didn't do it, and it was 3 other but it all makes sense. It's so good.
Yep.
But
yeah, as comic book fans, we are definitely used to that with the Marvel movies.
Yep.
Well, most of us are. Of course, there are still those. Oh, they did. It's like, and they didn't intend to either. Move on.
Yeah. Daredevil Born Again. It's been pretty good. Been watching it.
Haven't gotten to it yet. It's there.
Go back and watch the old Netflix series. But yeah, pretty good. All right. Just make sure I'm got nothing that's going to stop me from. I'm going to go ahead and start recording. That should probably be a good idea.
Okay. Oh yeah, I probably will too here.
Burp.
Yeah, I didn't get any of our banter here. Sorry.
Yeah.
ABC. Okay. Yep. It is going. All right.
But yeah, anybody, I don't know what's going on. All right, let me pull my notes up, and we are drink of water.
Yeah, I'm still on the upside from being like virtually bed sick for 2 weeks straight. It was.
There's something going around because it's gone through the house. All 3 of us.
Well, it's not COVID. I was tested for COVID. It's not strep. I was tested for strep. Yeah. But boy, it feels like a nasty combination of both. So I don't know what it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. My version was kind of, as soon as I get up, as soon as I'm in a seated or standing, if I'm not in a supine position, I wanted to throw up.
Oh, cool.
And then if I moved, if I exerted myself in any way, my head would just feel like it was about to split open, and fire and poop would come out of it,
Neat, yeah.
So it's like I just kind of had to slay there.
Yep. Just
watch TV,
Be still. Don't do anything. Yeah.
I remember what it was I was going to say, because we were talking about those collections and Kickstarter and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't begrudge Image or Skybound, I guess, for kickstarting these G.I. Joe collections and kickstarting the Transformers collections, because first of all, I think they did that specifically to gauge, is anybody going to actually want to buy these? We're not going to print up yeah. And they found out real quick.
They got an answer for sure.
But after all was said and done, they still put out a paperback version of that first big G.I. Joe collection, because I own it. I got it for Christmas.
Not only that, but you can get that digitally off of the Kickstarters as well. So I mean,
the Conan ones, I think somebody pointed it out on Blue Sky that maybe it might be part of the licensing agreement that they can't. I don't know. Marvel, I don't know. When Marvel had the license, they put out a ton of epic collections of the old stuff. So maybe,
and those were all soft cover.
So, I mean, and they did digital versions as well. So that's where I'm reading a lot of this stuff. I have a lot of those old
Speaking of which, when is that old show going to come back? Conan.
Oh,
dude, I miss
hopefully
it.
very soon. I've read
Okay.
I've read the next 6 issues.
Okay.
I've got all the notes ready to record the next episode. I'm getting these Steven or Else episodes done.
Right.
And then Conan's next, and I'll work
Okay.
on 6 episodes of Conan. And I was going to go 6 episodes of Conan, 6 episodes of the comic book show. But if I'm going to record episodes with Chris Parton,
right,
then I can do those just like we're doing these. So hopefully, because
okay.
once those 6 episodes of Steven or Else are completed, I don't really have any ideas for more episodes off the top of my head. So I at that point, my focus is going to be Conan until, something shiny comes along.
Yeah, I have a folder on my computer of my read-along books that I'm for other podcasts. And wow, what happened? Interesting. And my folder with Conan has just been sitting there, and I'm like, damn, I want to read those books, but I don't want to read them now because I'll forget by the time I listen. So I've been missing.
I actually.
Here's another one.
Oh yeah, I know, Doug. I'm sorry.
And it's not, we certainly aren't being, hey,
no,
it's just like,
I think,
it's
anytime I talk about it with anybody who listens, everybody's been hugely supportive. And I think most people agree that if I'm not feeling it, they don't want episodes.
No.
So
absolutely.
But I'm ready. I'm ready to start recording again. Like I said, I've read the next 6 issues, and I'm really kind of pumped up about getting some new episodes recorded. And then I think I'll do, originally I was like, I'll do 6 more issues of Conan the Barbarian. And then I'll do maybe 6 issues of the King Conan, the original King Conan. But I think I'll stick with Conan the Barbarian for now, try to get a bunch more episodes out, and then maybe switch over to King. I don't know. I enjoyed reading those 6 issues. I'm looking forward to talking about them. And hopefully I'll start recording them next week or the week after.
That's what we want listening, for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely, and the thing that bums me out the most about it is my 2 most popular shows are this one and Hither Came Conan. And though Hither Came Conan hasn't put out an episode in I don't know how many months, it's still getting more downloads than this one does. So,
people are still downloading them.
Yeah,
wow. Okay.
Yeah. Matter of fact, my older brother, it's funny because I talk about my older brother, David, a lot on the show because he's the one that ultimately got me into comic books. But he sent me a text yesterday. And I don't always see, I've got a group text going with both of my brothers. I've got an older and a younger. Middle child. Piece of the puzzle.
That explains something.
Piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
Middle child. The only member of my immediate family that has red hair because I get it from my grandma.
Middle redhead.
Yeah,
wow.
So
okay.
That's a piece.
We're just ticking things off the that explains it list here. It's like,
but I have a group text with both of my brothers, and I have it muted because they will, especially if there's a KU game on. They text back and forth. So every once in a while, I'll look at my phone and go, "Oh, I got a text from one of my brothers," and so it was my older brother David, and he just said, "Steven, going to start with episode 1 tonight and start listening to your latest podcast." And nice. I'm like, okay. That's pretty vague because I have a lot of different podcasts.
Well, yeah, it's like, which one is that?
Yeah. And so then he asked, what is Hither Came Conan? So I said, Hither Came Conan is my Conan podcast. I have what insiders call a, quote, shit ton of podcasts.
That's what the
but then I told him that the one that stays the most current is the Superman Super Show, but Hither Came Conan is my most popular. And then my younger brother put a GIF that said nerd alert. And I said, damn right.
That's fine. Hell yeah.
It's funny because being the middle child, growing up, there was a period of time where when Star Wars was just huge, I was getting the toys and my older brother was getting the toys. And so we were playing Star Wars. Okay. And then when G.I. Joe got huge, my older brother was too old. So I was getting the toys and my little brother was getting the
younger
toys.
brother. Okay. Yep.
So yeah,
gotcha.
I was kind of in that sweet spot there between 2 generations of geekdom. Well, not generations. We're not that far apart, the 3 of us. All right. Are we ready to do? I mean, we've only been sitting here for 45 minutes. Are we ready to actually record?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I said that for the benefit of my daughter, who the reason why we're recording early is because she didn't work today. I told her, I said, we're recording at 9. So it's an hour and a half earlier than we normally do. So hopefully we'll be done, by the time you get up. And she just got up and sat down. And so that's why I said, we've been recording for 45 minutes, but actually
we're just now starting. So yeah,
because I wanted her to inside to go, not that it matters. She doesn't, it's not like, because, I've mentioned our house is really small. So she's literally like right there on the couch. The TV's right over there. But she's just going to watch stuff on her phone or play video games on her Switch with her earbuds. And so, yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll try to hurry up.
As long as she doesn't every once in a while, she'll go, you suck, as we're recording.
Right.
Say it. Yell it real quick. Did you hear it?
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. it comes through. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Doug, you ready? You ready for us to go, Doug? Doug's like, shit, I've been ready for 45 minutes.
No doubt. I've been here
this shit rolling, man. Good God. I didn't have to work today and I'm spending it. Yeah. Okay. All right, here we go. You recording?
I will check. And yes, I am recording.
Okay, so am I. Cool. All right. The following episode was recorded in front of a live streaming audience on Saturday, April the 12th, 2025. You're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode number 84, The Haunting. Hello and welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm a host. My name is Steeven, and 1,000 miles over there to my right is another host, Mr. Ed Moore.
Howdy, folks.
Did you notice that I took that out of the script where it says Ed says hi?
Yes.
I'm the episode that I'm editing right now that goes up for the patrons on Monday, which is Man of Steel number 2. That particular episode is the one where we get to that point and I say, it's another host, Mr. Ed Moore. And you just go, hi. And then you point out, it says in the script, Ed says hi.
Ed says hi. Yeah. Hey.
So, yeah, we talked about that for a while. Yeah. So of course, I'll be going through my script to say this officially, but of course we're talking about Man of Steel number 6 in this issue. So we're wrapping up the mini, and I have look, Doug's ready.
All right, Doug. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't wait for you, Doug, but I knew you were ready. You were born ready, my friend. But I have a prediction to make about this episode because it's the last of the 6 issues, and because of its content, this is either going to be the single longest episode we've ever recorded or the single shortest.
Okay. We'll see if it falls in one or the other and which one, if it does. Yeah.
I think it's going to lean more towards the longest, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's one of the shortest. So,
okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, today we're looking at the Man of Steel number 6. The issue was published by DC Comics on September the 25th, 1986, and it is entitled The Haunting. It was written and penciled by John Byrne. Dick Giordano was the inker. The letters were by John Costanza. The colors were by Thomas Ziuko. And this is what happened in the issue. Clark Kent returns to Smallville and begins having visions of his birth parents on Krypton. Clark realizes for the first time that he is an alien and was not born on Earth. He also discovers that the rocket ship that brought him to Earth is missing. Evidence shows that it was taken from its secret location within the last 6 months. While learning about his own origins, Clark is also reunited with Lana Lang, who has recently returned to Smallville. Clark told Lana about his powers just before he left Smallville years earlier. Lana reveals to Clark that she was deeply hurt when Clark left and has only recently made peace with her emotions for him. Ed, what'd you think of this one?
Excuse me. Like you said, a lot of thinks. Probably the thing that pops out in my mind the most right now is when I got to the very last story page, the first thing that I thought was, wow, did he write this entire series just so that he could throw up that panel at the end? Was it this was in my mind and now I have to get there kind of thing? Or I don't know. There are times that I will read a single or a storyline, and something strikes me as, huh, this is the entire reason that they did that. So I don't know if it was or not, and I don't. It's not bad. I don't say that as a pejorative. It just struck me as I got to it. I'm like, wow, is this why he did 6 issues so that he could get to this point here? So
yeah, I mean, if anybody has listened to season 1 of the comic book show, which currently is the only season out there, then I've already talked about these 6 issues.
mhm.
And so if you've listened to those, you know my opinion about this particular issue. It's not my favorite of the 6. And I think I've mentioned before that it's like reading this again after, you know, reading it for the first time in 1986. It's like it ends the miniseries with kind of a wah wah wah. That's kind of the way I felt. It didn't. There was. I feel like the ending is supposed to make you go, all right, let's get into some Superman. I can't wait for Superman #1 next week. And I didn't feel that way at all rereading it, but it's got its moments. But I think if we're just going to be talking, if we're going to talk right now about overall elevator impressions, wasn't my favorite.
I think because the intent was this series was written for existing fans.
Yep.
It was not written to garner new fans, because truly, if that were the case, you're absolutely right. This, I thought, as a series, would fall horribly flat for somebody with no knowledge of Superman. You know, you might as well just open up a comic book for the first time that has Superman in it and just read.
Yeah.
As far as what this does for the character. Now, of course, for existing fans, I thought, yes, by the end of the series, you take a breath because you're like, okay, I got the reset. He hit most, if not all, of the points.
Yeah.
We can move forward with this new version of Superman and add things and whatever. It gives him the freedom to make those changes because he has told existing fans, okay, this is what is the same about it. This is what you already know.
Yeah.
Anything else, as I go along writing Superman, I'll change it.
Yeah.
I'll introduce so it.
Yeah. I tell you, I've been really looking forward to the two of us talking about this issue, and yet not looking forward to talking about it at the same time, if that makes any sense, because I love this era of Superman. This is my era of Superman. And for the miniseries to kind of, for me at least, reading it within the last 5 years, it ends on such, now I don't want to say a downer. It's just kind of bleh. There's a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say exhibition, but that's not it. It's all the, when they just talk about everything and they don't show it.
Yeah, it's not exhibit. It's
they're just informing you of all the stuff. And
yeah, I think I know the word that you're looking for. An exhibition
no, it's right there on the tip of my tongue, but that's the only one that seems to want to come out.
Exposition.
Exposition. Yes.
That's it. I was going to say it's an ishin. It's what is it? Yeah.
It's
exposition.
Yeah. It's an X with an ishin at the end.
Yeah. Or as us Marvel fans say, it's very Claremontian.
Yes.
In dialogue.
God, yes. Yeah. Which of course Byrne would.
He learned from. So
exactly.
It's
he got his writing chops working with Chris Claremont. But I feel like with this miniseries, there were certain things that he needed to establish about this new version of Superman. There were certain things that he needed to kind of point out as far as this is how this works with him. I just think that a lot of the stuff that he chose to point out, he didn't need to. And we're going to, you're going to do you're going to dive into this deep here in just a second, but this very first scene is an example of that, because he's coming, Superman's flying into Smallville, and they make, good Lord, how many pages do they do to one, two, three. So basically 3 pages to set up the fact that when Superman goes to Smallville, he has to establish the fact that Clark Kent got there under normal means. Because if anybody sees him on the farm, they're going to be like, oh, how did Clark get here? Right. So he flies into Smallville super fast as Superman, lands at the bus depot, changes into Clark super fast so nobody sees the quick change, and then acts like he got off the bus and his parents pick him up. While I like that, I mean, I dig that kind of stuff. I don't know, 3 pages just to kind of tell us that. Anyway, yeah, that's just an example.
It was 3 pages of pretty burn art. So I mean, yes, there is that.
There's a lot of really pretty burn art in this, and it's lacking on action. I'll say that.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm not sure really that there's, other than if you define action as movement, there's action in it. But if it's comic book action you're looking for, I don't think there's any of that in the whole book. So I mean,
I mean, if you might have a different opinion, but I feel like this entire issue, 22 pages, however many pages it was, is all of this was just to tell us Clark learns that he's an alien, but knows that he was born in on Earth. So he's an alien, but he's an American. That's what this issue is telling us.
Right.
It's like your dad's Superman was an alien and he's always going to be an alien and he can never run for president. But this Superman is an alien, but he was born in America. He's American. This is the Reagan era. And he is going to run for president one day, which he doesn't. Lex does.
Not in regular continuity. Maybe he does in elsewhere. I don't know. Don't remember. But let's take a look here at the cover.
Yeah, you want to take us through it?
Yeah. The cover here is interesting. If you've been reading the series up until now, well, no, I mean that truly, because it doesn't really, to my mind, show anything that we have seen up to now. So I mean, all the elements on the cover, other than Superman, of course. I mean, we know him. You're like, well, who is this girl over on this? And why is this dude kind of phasey looking on this other side? Yeah. Who are they? What are they doing? There's no text. There's no, Now, I suppose the astute fans will recognize the female. I don't know, because she's got red hair, maybe. I mean, there's nothing outstanding about her. She's dressed rather normally. And I don't even know, the World of Krypton has not come out yet, has it, Steven? That miniseries?
No, the World of Krypton and the World of Smallville have not come out yet. I don't know how long it is after this that they do, but I feel like it's a year maybe before that.
Okay, well, I say that because I recognize this type of dress as something that I remember seeing in that series.
Oh yeah.
So of this phasey looking individual here. So if that hasn't occurred yet, then I don't necessarily know, perhaps even as a fan, that I would recognize who this person is or what they are supposed to represent. So we have all of these elements of the cover. And although I will say that my not indicia, the barcode down here for the scan that I'm looking at says Matt Wagner's Demon is coming. Now, automatically, I'm sorry, that probably piques my interest more than what's going to be in the issue, because I'm a huge Matt Wagner fan. And if he's doing the Demon, and turns out now in retrospect, this is a book, a series that is still talked about quite a bit because Matt Wagner was involved in. So,
well, and another coincidence, who also did a run on the Demon in
John Byrne.
John Byrne, yeah. I'm looking at on my monitor. I'm looking at my the version that I bought through Comixology. I'm looking at it, but I'm trying to find my scanned version as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's cool.
Because I just want to say real quick, my biggest issue with this cover is purely the huge swath of orange that they use.
Oh, that's the wall. It's the wall. It's the wallpaper for the house.
It's just I'm a big fan of the color, but for some reason with the big red Superman on top of it, I don't know. It just, there,
yeah.
the, it makes what is a slightly dynamic cover to me just seem really dull.
Oh, true. You want to hope that Ma and Pa Kent put up wallpaper that had a little bit more movement in the house there, because I assume that's where this is after having read the book Superman, because he's in Smallville. So I imagine this is supposed to be a scene, although none of this occurs like this in the house. It's outside of the house, I think, where this occurs. So, well, no, it does start in the house, but anyways, we'll get into that. So, yeah, so no text, 3 characters, Superman, someone over here that we're going to find out is Lana Lang. I was about to say Lori Lamaris, and she's not even anywhere in this. I don't know. Wrong LL. Sorry, guys. And then this individual that Superman is actually looking at that seems out of phase with Superman. It's kind of fuzzy, blurry, kind of looking like, I don't know, he's phasing through the wall, or he's from another dimension, or one of these other comic book tropey things.
We know that guy is we at least know that guy is a Kryptonian because of the first issue.
Right. Yes.
So
yes.
we're gonna assume.
Yeah. So we would know that he is at least Kryptonian because of the garb and everything. Okay. Yeah. The only other thing really that stands out to me, and it's I don't know, it's kind of weird, on the end table, at the top of the end table, you see the bigger rock in the middle. On the book, on the shelf on the bottom of is a very similar thing. So automatically that makes me wonder, what in the world is that there's?
Yeah, because there's 3 of them there next to the lamp, and then one on the book. It's
one on the book. Yeah, it's not like it's just some tchotchke you've got on the top, because there's one on the I don't. Is that? I don't know. Is that maybe some Kryptonian thing, or
I don't know. I remember when like colored balls, or even just colored half stones of glass were kind of popular in the 70s and 80s.
Well, sure, but that would be a tchotchke on top. Why would you put it on a book that you're liable to pick up and have to move on the bottom? Yeah.
So, maybe the book got okay. I'm going to go really deep into the explanation.
Okay,
the book got wet. It fell into the bath, and so the rock is holding it down as it dries, so it won't.
But if you do that as it dries, won't the papers stick together? Because you're
and you'd probably
putting them under pressure.
Yeah. And that's got to be one heavy ass rock if that's what it's doing.
If that, and it doesn't look that big.
No, it's not that big.
So, I mean, and
that's weird.
The main reason it stands out to me is because that end table is almost center page, top to bottom, left to right. So I mean, it's like right there, and if you look at it, it's like, oh, why is there one down here? Well, at least
never noticed that before. Yeah,
that's what I thought. I'm like, what is that?
You keep noticing really interesting stuff that I've never noticed. It's like, I know I've noticed those ones over there by the lamp, but why is there one? It's weird.
I don't know. So that's the cover. It's interesting in ways. Steven has pointed out, and I have pointed out, it's perhaps uninteresting in ways too. Again, in interpretation. It would be interesting to ask Byrne, show him this image, and ask him what these different elements, why were the choices made, just to see what he says. So, because I didn't say so, but he is also responsible for that cover. That's his art. His inking. I don't think it's his coloring. I don't think he colors at all, ever. So.
Oh no, I don't think so. He might.
Maybe.
But he certainly didn't know where the color is.
Okay, so as Steven said at the top, The Haunting is the title of the story. And of course, we get our acknowledgement that this is created by Siegel and Schuster. This is a pretty Byrne picture. It's not necessarily the best, I think, that could be done for the character, because you see no Superman face at all, and kind of like the table was center cover, left, right, top to bottom, Superman's crotch is kind of middle picture, and so the whole thing just you almost want to like automatically look somewhere else, because if your eyes are drawn to the middle of the picture, it's Superman penis that you can't see it, not like Batman's penis in the whatever earlier this century. But it's like, Oh, yeah. Superman's wearing a red cod piece, like a dude from the song in the video. It's a
Yeah.
cameo. Yeah, he's got. Yeah. So.
Cinematically, if this was a moving picture,
Oh.
it makes sense because you get the sense from this splash page that, if you're thinking about it in movie or TV fashion, we're seeing an overhead view of Kansas prairie, and suddenly Superman swoops down from above
Yes.
in front of the
Yes.
camera and arcs that, but just as a still image, it's
And,
like one of those that if this was a movie and I just happened to press pause because I had to get up and it sat
yep.
in that, I'd be like, ooh, that's an unpleasant
Bam.
like,
Oh,
yeah,
caught that at the wrong place. Yeah.
super crotch.
So, yeah. So it's an image of Superman flying, and like you said, very cinematic from beginning to end, because you would imagine it starts with the world view, and then Superman swooping into the camera view, and everything. But yeah. So, um,
Speaking of which, real quick, I doubt we'll talk about it for very long because I'm going to assume my answer is no. Because you haven't even watched the trailer for the new Superman yet, right? The one that came out, the teaser that came out weeks and weeks and weeks ago.
no, I
Okay,
typically don't watch teasers. No.
so you haven't watched the sneak peek that just came out. That
Mm-hmm.
oh, let's just say that Crypto, the dog, whoever wrote Crypto, owns a dog. That's all I'm going to say. It's
Okay.
such a
Yep.
great scene that they put in the sneak peek. I can't
Well,
wait
cool.
for the movie to come out. But yeah,
It'll
okay.
be nice to have a Superman movie that introduces something like that, rather than this horrid let's take it from the beginning kind of
Mm,
thing, that
yeah.
it's like,
I think
I
they've
understand that every movie of the is going to be somebody's first movie. I
yeah.
get that. But let's take a census and see how many first time goers versus how many who have seen all of them, which would tell you appeal to the greatest
Yeah.
mass, don't appeal to the smallest. Please, Spider-Man movie, don't do another freaking origin movie. Please,
No, and
please.
I think when,
Ugh.
the first official Marvel Studios Spider-Man, Marvel Studios / Sony Spider-Man Homecoming, since they didn't do an origin, I think that a lot of other, that's probably why we're not going to see much of it. I bet we see an origin in this movie. We're gonna.
Maybe in flashback or
Yeah,
something like that. That's fine. A dream, a
right,
nightmare, or something. Okay,
right.
that's
We
fine. But
yeah, if
Batman, they're horrible about doing it with Batman too. Every new actor gets his origins. It's like, no, don't
the
do that.
well, and what's crazy about it is the thing about characters like Superman and Batman, when it comes to their origins, really when you boil it down, they're very simple. And you could legitimately stick Superman's origin and Batman's origin in every single movie. It just only needs to take 15, 20, 30 seconds at
Right.
that to just tell
It
it.
doesn't need to be
Yeah.
a part of the movie per se.
Yep.
Just yeah, yeah. So it and having said all that, it's good to see that then that they have moved into something that occurred
Yeah.
way down the line as far as the introduction of crypto, and plus, it's a cool uh, crypto Silver Age, I think, a cool
I
Silver
think so.
Age
Yeah.
addendum,
Feels
which
very
is
Silver Age.
yeah, it feels that way. And those kind of things are not necessarily the way things are written nowadays. Those kitschy kind, they've our storytelling has moved away from that kind of thing. So it's nice to see that somebody felt compelled enough to be like, hey, let's take this real cool Silver Age kind of haha cutie concept, and let's do something worthwhile with it and
Yeah.
introduce it nowadays. So that I'll be interested
Well,
to see what they do with
and
the crypto.
I don't want to give anything away from the sneak. And if anybody is listening or watching that, if
Ah,
they haven't,
spoilers.
yeah, if they haven't watched the trailer, haven't watched the sneak peek, and just literally do not want to know anything about it, stop listening for the next few minutes. But I'm only telling this story because it's anecdotally something that Karen had said while we were watching the sneak peek. Because in the sneak peek, we see Superman lying in the snow. He's had his ass kicked. He's bloody. He's spitting blood. He can barely move. And my wife, and Karen says, but isn't he like invulnerable or something? And I said, no, but the fact that, that whoever did this to him, that makes me super interesting because they got to be one super powerful
Right.
person. To
They
do this.
were enough to do this to him. Yeah.
Because if it was just something that happened to him because Lex Luthor was holding a fistful of kryptonite while he was punching him, as soon as he's away from the kryptonite, he heals really quickly. And so, yeah.
Yeah, but no, that was something where he just got a butt kicking. And so, yeah, that tells you that it's.
And you see Guy Gardner in both the teaser trailer and the sneak peek for a fraction of a second. And I swear to God, in both of them, because I thought of it because Karen was watching it with me. And I wonder if she thinks he's the bad guy because he comes off as the bad guy in each of those.
And I will say, I have seen a still image of Guy Gardner. Doug, we need to take a blowtorch to that haircut. That is one of the most horrible things I have seen on a movie. Yeah. I'm like, I understand that at a time in the comic books, he had a similar hair. It didn't look anywhere near that bad. No. I don't know why.
It's the head
but
shape.
In real life, it's like, oh no, get rid. Yeah. You look so fake. Not that, it's like, but the superhero movie, it's fake enough.
Yeah.
But the haircut, I'm like, oh,
it's bad. Dog. And I think it's just simply because of Nathan Fillion's head shape.
Okay.
Stick a bowl cut on that man, and that's the way it's going to look. And
I'm going to watch the movie with my thumb up. It's like, oh yeah, let's, yeah. Doug said that he was really excited by the teasers for that movie as well. So there you go. Doug continuing the good taste that we all exhibit. So that's killer.
That's why we've hired him to be a fan.
Yes, he is our promo guy.
He's a plant.
He's the Superman Super Show Barker officially. Yeah. Yes,
he's our Flavor Flav. He's out there going,
Flavor Flav! With the
Superman Super Show. You know what time it is?
Going old school.
I watched them play live on something just not that long ago, and they come out and they're both, Chuck D, Flavor Flav, they're both old, and Flavor Flav comes out and he starts doing that dance.
He's still Flavor Flav. That's Yep. He found something and he has continued doing it to this day. So, all right. So the next page, another pretty burned picture. This time we get to see Superman's face. I'm born to be a hype man, Doug says.
Born to be a hype man.
So pretty picture of our camera angle has now switched to being in front of Superman. Much better because it reduces the crotchal area significantly, so it's not as prominent.
Real quick, one thing I forgot to mention about the previous page, that splash page, you notice that he's holding his cape, kind of reminiscent of like a Batman thing.
Right, like he's gliding rather than flying. Yeah,
I got to assume that he's holding his cape because he's done such a hard swoop that if he didn't, his cape would probably be up over his head because
it would be flapping and making so much noise. I mean, he's starting to get into somewhere where he doesn't want to be found, so he's got the bafflers on the cape so that they quiet down and
so that's kind of a neat little thing that he put there.
Definitely different there. Yeah, and there's another panel that the cape is drawn in such a way that I'll point out when we get there that I really liked as well, just because it was different.
And on this second page, that second panel where we see him zooming over, like what is obviously the downtown area.
The downtown. Mm-hmm.
It's the drawing of the buildings. It's obviously a photograph that he's,
right.
They do that sometimes, but the buildings are a little bit taller, but that totally reminds me of the main street in my hometown.
Okay, I was going to ask. It reminds me of the main street where I grew up when I went to high school as well. Yeah. Except in the background here, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a building with 4 stories. My main street did not have a 4-story building on it.
No,
I think there was 1 or 2 stories, and that was as high as it got.
Same with us. We had a couple of buildings, and matter of fact, there's one particular building with the 2nd story that I lived in that town for 25 years before I learned that those were apartments, and I went at somebody I knew lived in those apartments, and I was like,
cool. Cool. Yep. I recognize that as well because I never had reason, but there are several where I grew up. I'm like, oh, people live up there? I never saw them come and go. I never knew anybody that did it. It's like, oh,
why is there another floor above the flower shop? What?
Yeah. Also, I want to point out, I'm from a town close enough to originally called Sophia in southern West Virginia. Currently, one whole side of the downtown, I don't know if it's always been that way, but has been cleared out so that there is parking on that side of Main Street.
Okay.
And then on the other side of Main Street are what remains of the town itself. So this is very similar to the current setup of where I am from. So,
was your street actually called Main Street?
As a matter of fact, it was. It was. It was
ours.
Main Street. Yeah. There you go. I guess you can only go so far, I guess, at the times that these things were named. First, second, third Street, Main Street. You tried to keep it simple. You didn't get into adjectives or people's last names yet or stuff like that. You kept it very simple, and
and Lawrence, Kansas, which is I grew up in Eudora with the Main Street like that. Lawrence, Kansas, home of the Kansas Jayhawks. I think they have a Main Street as well, but up until maybe the last 20 years, 20, 25 years when they started expanding more, all the non-numbered streets in Lawrence were named after states. So their Main Street is Maine.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah,
okay. How very clever. I like that. Yep. Okay. So we continue on. We see Superman swooping into town. He eyeballs the bus terminal here, so you automatically know that's where he's going to go. Continuing his faster than the eye can follow swooshing, he swooshes into the terminal, going down into the part of the building where the buses can pass back and forth, like a big garage door kind of thing. And I want to say that one of these two vehicles over here to the side almost put me in mind of a Humvee.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So now the first Humvee for non-military use was purchased in 1986 by none other than Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yep. Yeah.
He had the first civilian Humvee. So it's possible somewhere that Byrne would have seen an image, because of course at this time you can't go online and look up and get, so it would have been in a magazine or something like that. So it's possible, but one or both of these kind of remind me of a Humvee kind of situation.
Well, and Smallville having a bus depot.
It's got two bays.
Yeah. And so my first thought is like, well, Smallville's a much bigger town than the town I grew up in.
Right. Than just a little town. Yeah.
But if you look at that splash page again real quick, it's almost like, it looks like Smallville is just out there literally in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
And in Western Kansas, I suppose that's possible. My town didn't have a bus depot, but we had Lawrence, Kansas, 6 miles away, which did have a bus depot. And then Kansas City, 30 miles away in the other direction. So
Kansas City is all bus depot.
Exactly. So if Smallville's out there in the middle of the prairie by itself, it makes sense for a small town to have a bus depot.
Yeah, out in the middle, it's a bedroom town. People drive by on a longer trip, they stop to stay, then they resume their trip on so yeah.
One of those towns that I guarantee you people drove through back in the 50s and 60s before the interstate highway system came in, and then one of those towns that look at that small town out there in the distance.
Dried up as the interstate 5 miles outside passed them right by. Yeah. Which, of course, we know is only because whomever was in Washington at the time was not from that town. Otherwise, when that highway went through, it would have gone through downtown. That's always the way that works.
We got a question from a viewer, Tonka Senior. What made Superman your guys' favorite hero? I'm going to let you answer first.
Okay, I'll go first because
I'm going to let you. What an asshole!
Thank you.
I'm going to allow you.
I will permit you to answer this question. Steeven will answer this question more positively in the way that it's asked. Personally, I can't say that Superman is my favorite hero. I am involved in the show because Steeven and I work well, and it's a project that he wanted to do, and it's a project that I didn't have any problems doing. I don't have any problems with Superman. I've always known about Superman for almost as long as I've read comic books. I've been interested in him. For the most part, he is a character that I haven't delved too much into. So that was my interest in doing this show with Steven. Not a unpopular hero in my mind, but unfortunately, I guess, in light of answering the question, he's not my quote unquote favorite hero. Now, I will take my baton and I will pass it over to my co-host, Steven.
Superman is my absolute most favorite superhero in the whole entire world. I know that I was watching the Super Friends and that I was a huge Superman fan when I was 5, only because I have a picture from my 5th birthday holding up a Superman shirt and being very excited about it.
There you go.
As a kid, I guarantee you what drew me towards Superman was just the fact that he was the toughest guy in the room, basically. He was the most powerful. I've always gravitated toward those kind of heroes, but he stuck with me because he's just a good freaking guy. He does, I don't want to say he always does the right thing, but he always tries to do the right thing. And he, eventually becomes, of course, the superhero in the DC universe that most of the other superheroes look up to. That's who they want to be, kind of.
They want to emulate him.
Yeah. So he gets a lot of crap for being the big blue Boy Scout, but that's one of the reasons I love him so much.
That's why he is who he is. And Tonka Senior, thank you for listening, watching. I don't know if we've seen you pop up before, so if this is your first time, we appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. They could have been on we could have said the same thing to him in the last time. I don't know. My memory says.
It could have been. Yeah. Long-time listener. What is it? Long-time listener, first-time caller. Yeah.
This little bit here with the question, I may stick near the end of the episode. Depends. Just so anybody watching, if you're watching now, if you're listening to this and it's like, wait, where did that question go? Just who knows? When I listen to it, we'll see.
And Tonka Senior responds, very great answer. And Ed, what is your favorite? Personally, I am a Marvel zombie. That is because at the time that was most formative to me, my dad was reading comics, so he would read them and pass them on to me. The comics that I grew up on were the Avengers and all of the individual books for the characters that made up the individual team. So you're looking at Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, which was very early on. He was already out of the Avengers, but I'm not quite that old. So, and so those are the books that I grew up on. My favorite character is a team, and it is the X-Men. That is absolutely my favorite property, I would say.
Who's your favorite X-Men?
It's hard for me to say that there's a favorite because the character that I may have been drawn to 15 years ago changed 10 years ago and changed 5 years ago, and then this year it's a different. So it's that's why I like to keep with. Now I'm a fan of the core characters. So you're looking at Superman, McCoy, Angel, those guys, and some of the weirder peripheral characters. One of my favorite not core characters is Maggot of the X-Men. I absolutely adore that character because it is something so off the wall and unfortunately something so little used right now. But the X-Men, I would have to say, is my favorite character.
Well, the thing is the crazy thing about Superman being my favorite character is that I grew up a Marvel zombie as well. When it comes to the volume of DC that I read at that time versus Marvel, 90% Marvel, 10% DC. And I was only reading these books because my older brother David was getting them.
Okay, so they were easy access.
Yeah. Nowadays, if we're talking about new stuff, I probably do prefer the DC more than the Marvel. I mean, when it comes to new books, I've read way more DC than Marvel, but Spider-Man's my second most favorite character. And I've probably read way more Spider-Man than I've read Superman, but I'm trying to remember the marketing term for it, but there's a term for when a brand latches onto your memory at a young age, like Coke. you know, Coca-Cola, Band-Aid, something
Like
that
the
just,
drink, yeah, not the
yeah,
powder. Yeah,
right,
okay.
yeah. Well, maybe the powder.
Well, it latches on at a young age
Might
too, but yeah,
might be a
probably in a
drug.
different way. It's yeah,
Yeah, it might be a drug of choice. So, you know, when you're like 30, 40, 50 years old, and it's like my drink of choice is Coca-Cola, 9 times out of 10, it's because that's just what imprinted on you as a child. And that's
right.
kind of the same thing with Superman. But at the same time, I can still read a new Superman story and
Oh,
enjoy it.
oh, absolutely. I just processed my most recent monthly comic book order that came in, and over the last 3 months, because I'd let them sit, so I did a quick tally, and over the last 3 months, I've averaged 40 new books a month that I'm ordering.
Wow.
So I read very broadly.
Yeah. Doug says I love the positivity of his character. Yeah, exactly.
And let me say something about that. That is one of the things that has attracted you to the character you
Yep.
said. My personality is such that I don't the positivity is kind of separate, but kind of related to that is something both he and Batman say. You do not kill the bad guy.
Yep.
My personality is such that the Punisher in Marvel has got it right. That's what you do. I mean, in the real world, and
Real
of
world. Yep.
course,
Yep.
I know that this is all that, but that is what I want my quote unquote heroes to do.
Yeah.
The Joker, Clayface, Lex Luthor. No, one, maybe two times. That's all you get. That because these people have the ability to do that when it needs to be done.
Yep.
I don't have that ability. I can't do that to the bad guys. So that's part of my my superhero mystique is that they have the powers to do those things that I feel need to be done when they need to be done. So that's one of the things that has separated me from Superman.
Yeah.
But I fully understand in our make believe life, the way Superman does things is just as valid for those that want their heroes to act that way as I believe the way that I want heroes to act in my make believe life. So they're both, it's the same coin, just opposite sides. Neither is more or less valid because we're all just pretending. It's a pretend world. You can't pretend wrong. So yeah, we're pretending and yeah.
I don't dislike the darker, gritty characters. I like Punisher. I like Batman. I like Wolverine. You know, there's, it's, I don't know. If I'm in the mood, I'm usually in the mood for something a little more positive, but I'm
okay, right. Yeah.
often in the mood for something dark as well.
Mood reading. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then, Tenka Senior says, "Oh yeah, some good old X-Men." So
good old X-Men, yeah.
Okay, looking back here, and thank you guys for interacting with us. This is cool. We appreciate that. Clark has changed in his super speedy swishy. Now we did see enough to see that that's what he's doing. I'll kind of like what they do with the Flash with what he does. It's not all blur lines. They do give you enough to tell you what they're doing in that blur.
Makes more work for the artist.
Yeah, there you go. Which is John Byrne anyway, so you know
really.
what he's writing it, and and ultimately we see that the reason that Clark has done it this way is to meet Ma and Pa Kent, which he does here.
Tonka Senior says, "I always felt like Superman was the hero of all heroes." Just such a great leader, which is true. Which is why I have issues with Kingdom Come, because it's Superman takes that to a different to the bad level. Basically,
it's not your Superman. It's
Doug S says, "When I was younger, I appreciated the darker characters more for sure." Yeah, that's probably the same.
We're younger. Maybe we have a little bit more testosterone. We're a little bit more. And then as we get older, we're like, oh, those kids, whatever.
Exactly.
Let's just get together and live. It's
the darker stuff at that age feels more real. And then the brighter
poison
stuff,
elves.
The brighter stuff at this age, it's like, I just don't want to deal with anything real right now.
Yep. I want to sit back and be entertained. I don't want to have to run out on my lawn and shake my fist.
The world is the world is darker than what you're putting in these grit and gritty comics. So,
yep. Okay, so Mom, Pa Kent meet Clark here. We have seen them jumping in the pickup truck, which is very funny to me. I mean, it's like you live in the middle of nowhere, Kansas. Not that it's Kansas, but any state. You live in the and so what do you drive? Well, you drive a pickup truck.
Well, if you live on a farm, you kind of have to have a pickup truck. That's
okay for farm use.
Yes,
that sits out there in the field all the time until you need it. That's fine. The family car doesn't have to be a pickup truck. Now, it wouldn't make sense for it to be like a station wagon because they don't have a big family,
right?
But at this point in their life, it could be anything. They could have a little Kia or a little, or whatever the equivalent would have been, a Yugo. And that might have been even before Yugos, but so it's like, and but it's just very, very tropey. They're like, let's turn into this thing completely and just lean right in. And so the older couple on a farm in Kansas, let's drive a pickup truck. I'm like, oh, okay.
Living in Kansas, there are a lot of pickup trucks out there on the road.
I don't doubt that. I don't doubt it at all.
But the Kent's pickup truck is super old, even for 1986. I mean, this looks like a truck from the 50s.
50s. Yeah, you're right. So they get in it and they're driving away. We're having a little catch-up conversation, of course. The boy is home after several years away. And as they're talking, Pa Kent starts to get into something that Ma Kent doesn't think is appropriate or appropriate now, or maybe not supposed to be spoken at all. So she gives him the quick elbow to hush him up and get him to move on to other topics as they continue their journey home, which
that's a great panel.
Which one of the home?
No, when she elbows him.
Because you can see it, and if Clark wasn't paying attention, he wouldn't necessarily have seen it the way everyone is positioned here. So
well, and I do like that a little later in the book he does mention.
Yes,
Paul was actually kind of weird because that always drives me crazy in shows and stuff where they do that, where somebody's like, well, but that's when, and somebody goes psh, psh, and elbows him, and the person listening
under the table when they jump, and it's like, oh,
and the person who's listening just isn't. Oh, yeah, I didn't notice that at all.
It's like you want to say, I saw that,
So, speaking of the Kents, Tonka Senior asked another question. May I ask, what is your guys' favorite Mom and Pop Kent adaptation?
I'll have to defer to Steven. I don't think I really know enough to really have one.
The one that springs to mind the most is probably because it's one of the more recent, and that's Smallville, Mom, Pa Kent. I remember watching that very first episode of Smallville and Mom, Pa driving back to the farm. I think they were in a pickup truck, and the meteor shower happens, and one lands next to the truck and flips the truck over. And so they're hanging upside down. And then here comes little baby naked Clark. Peeks inside the window at him. And that's one of my favorite moments. In the Superman movie, I think every movie, Pa Kent is dead. He dies in the first movie. He dies in Man of Steel. I have to see how this new one turns out, but probably Smallville, Mom, Pa Kent.
And I will say, anybody who has been portrayed by Kevin Costner, that's not bad.
No, I am a Kevin Costner fan.
So, this panel of the homestead as the sun goes down, I think is just awesome.
Very nice.
Everything is shadowed because your attention is drawn by the sunset, which is behind. You don't see the setting sun, but you see the colors of the sky, reds, orange, yellow, and you can see. I like that he went so far as to make the windows in the barn and the house translucent so you can see light coming out because it is all shadow. So you have these spots, shadow buildings, and then the sunset in the back. Now over here, look, there's another vehicle besides the truck. See it over here? That is not a truck. That's some kind of car. So, okay.
They did have a barrel in the back of the truck. So maybe they were killing two birds with one stone and picking up a barrel.
Go ahead. You want to support that old pickup truck trope. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we switch inside. We see Clark kind of dressed down. it's kind of cool to see.
Yeah,
Not a common sight necessarily.
just in his socks.
Again, Ma and Pa Kent, just all three of them just visiting, as you would want to see in real life, definitely as they would portray on any screen, movie, TV. You know, just that character, not necessarily character development. Maybe some would call it that, but to me, it's more just showing that these characters are quote unquote real, that they're acting like people, even though we're in a superhero. You know, there's no superhero. They're not a superhero 100% of the time. It's not the only thing that they are. So,
well, and if they wanted to tell us that Jonathan and Martha were old without showing us Jonathan and Martha, because obviously we can see that they're old. The doily on the back of that chair in that second panel tells us that they're old.
I am not sure when the last time I've seen a doily thrown over a chair is.
In my grandma's house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In addition, the oval picture behind Ma Kent next panel. Yep. What is that called? It's not a silhouette or no a.
I know what you're talking about.
Oh, there's a name for that.
Yeah.
Which is, but it's something. It's a technique. That you really don't see it left in the 60s or what. But yeah, so is it a silhouette? Nah. Anyways, I'm gonna move on, or that'll drive me crazy.
It's like now I can think as exhibition again. It's like that word.
Exposition. Yes, that one I remember.
Yeah.
I think the word I'm trying to think of is what they call it when it's jewelry like that, because I think of it most often as a necklace.
Yeah, I just saw that in a TV show too, and I can't.
Yeah, it's an old style thing. Yeah. So,
and you'll notice with Clark when he arrives in Smallville and changes into his Clark persona, he's got the hair slicked back, he's got the round. All three of them wear perfectly round glasses, so they look like, I guess. But now that he's home and he's comfortable and he's kicking back, you know, no glasses, he's got the spit curl. So
he washed the grease out of his hair. He put the glasses aside. He is just the individual, whether it's Clark or it's Superman or whatever. But he is not playing one or the other. It's just.
And he's comfortable enough to kick back in his socks with that.
In his socks, yes.
But he's still got the polo shirt tucked into his pants. So he's not quite that. He's not quite, he's still a little stuffy there.
Well, he's got a belt on, belted pants and the shirt. Yeah, he's not doing sweats and a t-shirt or, it's still business casual. Is this, with socks.
Okay. That's what he was. Was that what he was wearing when he?
I don't.
It's the same.
Well, he's got an overcoat on, so it's kind of hard to see. But yeah, it looks like it here where they're hugging.
Yeah.
It looks like the colors are the same.
So basically, took his coat off, fixed his hair, threw his glasses off, kicked off his shoes, and just had some pie, rhubarb pie. Have you ever had rhubarb pie?
No, but I am familiar with it. My brother and sister love rhubarb pie. Love rhubarb. They used to eat it raw off the farm where I grew up. It grew and they would eat it raw.
This is another reason I love Superman so much. The relationship between him and his parents. He has that support system. Batman unfortunately does not, but of course we wouldn't have Batman if he had that support system. Right,
he wouldn't be Batman. So.
But the fact that whenever they can show Clark just chilling with his parents, being who he really is, I like
just being a person. Yeah. He's just more to the point. He is just like me and you. He's so it's like okay, I get that. Where's my superheroes? I'm sorry, that's what I read comic books for, is for super. If I wanted this scene, I would ask my wife if she wants to go visit her mother, and we would go to, so I mean, it's like,
no, I get it. I appreciate these scenes in moderation. I think they need to be in comic books. I think a lot of modern books these days spend a lot more time focusing on the task at hand, which is fighting the bad guy.
For sure.
Not, you have to have your person. You have to have the soap opera. That's
right. Downtime. As an X-Men fan, a lot of talk is about the baseball / softball games that they used to have that they don't have anymore. Right. Things like that. Just the downtime again to show that they can be more human like we are to show that connection. Whereas, now contemporary comics are, no, we have to save the world / universe / all of reality. So, and it's like, I don't connect to that. I don't know what is that like?
Those baseball games were like what, once a year, and
almost like a Christmas special. But he did
when one of those issues would come out, he'd be like, "Oh, it's the baseball game." It's like, it's not, "Oh, they're gonna fight Mojo." It's, "Ooh, they're gonna play baseball." And because they didn't do it too often, the X-Men is a really good example. Claremont is a really good example of being able to blend the everyday stuff with stuff like Mojo and Apocalypse.
Right. The big stuff. Yeah. But now all it is the big stuff, because they seem to think that that's all that sells. And I would disagree with them, because if you look at a lot of the alternative comics that are really popular right now, they have none of that superhero, I'll say, bullshit in it. It's all down to earth, real life. And take, for instance, Raina Telgemeier. Okay. I hear her name all the time. Pick up one of her books that sells by the billions and show me where there's superheroes in it.
Give me a book. I mean,
she is a middle school author. She is probably the most prolific as far as numbers author doing anything related to comic books right now.
What was the name?
Raina, Rana, Telgemeier, Thelgemeir, I think, or close. Scholastic is her, I think, main place, but they're middle school books that she sells by the buttload.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think I know Palin has read a couple of her books. Ronnie, you ever read any Raina Telgemeier books? Raina Telgemeier, didn't she do Smile?
Oh
yeah. Okay, yeah. So see,
Smile and Guts.
You even have examples of a couple people that, but from numbers now, that is, she's just freaking huge. I have never read any of her stuff. I only know about what I'm saying because I put a little bit of time into spending or into following the book market as a whole, and her name comes up, all kinds of awards, all kinds of best-selling lists, all kinds of, not necessarily comic book related, but you could certainly make the argument that she should be considered in the same category because she's an authoress or an author. I don't mean to gender, but she's a cartoonist, I guess is what you would call her, rather than a comic book artist or something like that. And a lot of people talk about cartoonists at the same time because of similarity in what they did. But yeah, she is. But all that stuff to say that comic book producers are afraid to put non-fighty stuff in there because it'll affect sales. But yet every other book outsells comic books, and they don't put that stuff in there. So I'm like, your example is right here, and you don't believe your example? I mean, you don't. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people pick up a superhero book for the fights. Ultimately, that's what they want to see.
But it doesn't have to be the only thing. I mean, that's why I read superhero books. I want to see a good guy beat a bad guy. Yep. I mean, that's boiling it down. Now, you can do that a lot of different ways. There's a lot of leeway to get there. You can take 2 or 3 issues. That's fine. But, so it's like, there's room. There's room for that other stuff. Now, what happens is I think a lot of comic book readers are getting fatigued by the constant fighty, elevating, all of reality is in danger kind of, constant kind of, when you read a comic book. And it's like, no, we just want to read something once to do this. And just, so. Doug is telling us here that some of my favorite moments from the Claremont run are them just hanging out. Absolutely. Anybody, I think, that has read, particularly the X-Men from Claremont for a while, those breaks just become very comfortable to have in the way that Claremont writes. And there's a lot to be said for his for his technique and being popular, effective in the way Chris Claremont used to.
He
He
was
doesn't,
he
but
was truly writing for the medium. I mean, if you're going to produce monthly comic books that are numbered, that go up into the hundreds, and
right.
it's people use the term soap opera for a reason.
Well, yes, yeah, very much so. In book form, it very much emulates the things we see on TV, the serious and the funny and the goofy and the no way and all of that. It's and we know some of these soap operas on TV have been going for, I don't know, 40 years, 50 years. There must be a reason for that, because if nobody is watching, they're going to do something else.
Well, and this issue of Man of Steel is an example of one of those books where there are no good guy, bad guy fights. There are no superhero brawls. There are no real, I mean, we see him in the costume a few times, but there's no real superhero action. Unfortunately, it wasn't done well, I don't think, in this issue, because you can read an entire superhero comic book with no superhero action and have it be one of the more enjoyable issues you've ever read when it's done right.
But we also have an expectation of the final issue of a miniseries, of a quote unquote reboot, of a, there's all these other things that have been set before us that we're basing the end result on. Yep. And this end result perhaps didn't own up to what we were told, so yeah, there's a mismatch there. It should have been 2 more issues, or, something kind of that kind of feel.
We've talked already throughout this series about how these 6 issues feel more like a series of vignettes that are just kind of setting up the world, but you're thinking to yourself, when you get into literally what is billed as a 6-issue miniseries, you're expecting almost not necessarily a linear story, but I'm sure we'll talk about this when we get to the end, but you expect, first of all, I would expect to see Lex Luthor in this issue.
Okay.
He's Superman's main bad guy. And if you're
and he has been in it more than once.
Right.
To show that he is that important, not just a quick one-off or something like that. It's like, no, he's been in here multiple times, so he must be a big deal.
Yeah, on the one hand, Byrne didn't do the thing that I hate, where he reboots Superman and ties Lex Luthor's evil origin into you couldn't have Lex Luthor without Superman, so he didn't do that. But at the same time, I don't know, we'll talk about it when we get to the end.
Okay. All right. So we move on. Clark has gone, everybody basically has gone to bed, but Clark can't sleep. Just things going through his head. And here, I believe, is where something is mentioned about him noticing that Pa.
Yeah. Pa started to say something.
Yeah, I'm looking
what
to
could he have meant?
Here. What could he have meant? Yeah, why did Ma shush him? So here you see that Clark did pick up on that occurring. So
even Superman's brain keeps him from sleeping now and again.
Yep. He goes downstairs, and what does he do? He raids the fridge for some rhubarb pie. So he goes back to that old thing that always used to probably comfort him when he was younger. Going back to it again, showing us this whole page. He is human too. He can't sleep, because of what's going on in his head. He's here at home, so he gets up, like we have seen many times, if we haven't done it ourselves, gone downstairs, raided the fridge, and pulled out the comfort food, which will be the pie or the cake or the dessert that grandma made. Not the main course. He didn't pull out a chicken leg or a big ham hock. No, he goes for the pie. So that's that very, very human, very like the rest of us as far as that comfort food.
My mom used to make pie. She had a recipe for pie crust, handed down to her from her mother, who got it from her mother.
Nice.
So one day I need to get it from her so I can start making it, because I've made it before. But my mom makes, she would always either, pumpkin pie for, of course, Thanksgiving, but she would make
Right.
she makes cherry pie, and the
Okay.
crust is so good that it's almost like, can I just have the crust? And then,
Scrape off the rest.
yeah.
Or,
So I can totally relate to this, getting up in the middle of the night, getting a piece of cherry pie out of the fridge. But what she would do is if she'd have to make a few pies for a holiday,
right.
whatever dough scraps were left,
Oh,
she'd
okay.
roll it out flat, this big flat thing of dough, about an eighth of an inch thick, slather it with butter,
Ooh.
spread cinnamon and sugar all over it.
Oh, absolutely. Okay,
Roll
absolutely.
it
There
up
we go.
into a big long roll and then cut it into sections.
Yep,
And then
cinnamon roll, but with
Yeah.
dough, not with the cinnamon roll dough.
Yeah,
but with,
they were called. Again, it was something that she got from her mom, and they were called, or at least they called them, Willy Wangs. I don't know
Willy
why,
Wang.
but it's like when mom was baking
Mm,
pies, it's like, oh, are you gonna make some Willy Wangs? And she goes, if I have crust left over, I will.
nice.
So
Good memory, man. That's
the couple of times I have made pie crust using that recipe, I have done it specifically to make Willy Wangs.
To get Willy Wangs. Okay. Did you even make a pie, or did you just make that from
I've
the
never
dough?
made a pie, but I've made the
Okay,
crust.
so you just made
Yeah.
that from the. You're
Yeah.
like, okay.
Doug says it sounds amazing. Doug, it was amazing.
Yeah.
It even got to the point where after I was an adult for my birthday, because my mom also, she was the mom growing up that would decorate cakes. She
Okay.
had a bunch of different cake pans, had all the decorating tools, the bags. She'd make her own frosting, which I was super shocked to learn as an adult was literally Crisco, sugar, and food coloring. That was the frosting, and it's the best frosting
Okay.
ever. But so every birthday she made, I have pictures with a Superman cake and blah blah blah. But as an adult, I remember the first time she said, "What kind of cake do you want for your birthday?" And I go, "Could you make me a cherry pie?" And from that point on, every birthday she'd bake a cherry pie for me.
Cherry pie. Cool. Thank you for sharing that, man. That's cool.
I'm talking as if she's gone. She's still around, but she's in early Alzheimer's, and so
early not making the cherry pies anymore.
Yeah.
Much appreciated. Yeah, definitely. Okay, next page. Full page panel here. Boom, out of nowhere. Soup is in the fridge, right? He's getting him a piece of cake, and suddenly this, which we would know at this point, in reference to Steeven said from the first issue, a Kryptonian just appears. Now, I assume it's a he by looking at the face, but I could be wrong. I mean, you don't know per se. That John Byrne Kryptonian outfit, but something's different because over here you see Clark, and Clark looks like a person in this world. I mean, he looks like he's here. We're here. We're in the world that Clark is. This apparition or whatever this is, it looks it's covered by multiple energy, I'll say, nimbuses. Each layer like a kind of a different color. It goes from a white to a light pink to a darker pink over like multiple layers. So you can tell that something about this individual is not right. It is not a person that has just appeared like they teleported or something like that to wherever Clark is. It is something else. My first impression was someone somewhere else, whether it's another place or in another dimension, trying to communicate. And so I got this feeling of a trying to cross over but not quite able to kind of thing.
Yep. It's
Clark.
It's colored. It's like, look at Clark. He's got way more blacks on him. The only blacks used in this figure are just for the literal outlines and some of the wrinkles in the robes.
Right.
There's no shading to the colors. They're flat colors.
Right.
To me, it looks like either it's a hologram or maybe, like you said, somebody who is caught mid transport or something like teleportation. Something like right. Yeah.
Clark has dropped his pie. He's so surprised, and he says, "What in the name of?" And he doesn't continue. Now, telling to me was the other person spoke, but they spoke in this
Yeah.
stuff. It was some sort of symbolic language. It didn't even look like letters in a foreign language. It almost looked like some kind of machine language, like ones and zeros or arithmetic, but it's symbolic. It's a symbol language. I think, actually, now that I say this now, whenever you see it undefined, I think interlac looks like this.
Yes. Yeah.
Interlac looks like a symbolic language before it's defined. So,
but using it in the word balloon feels less like, all right, this is just the way the Kryptonian language, this is the way their characters are drawn. So the
right?
letter
No.
A,
To me, it looks like an attempt that isn't working for some reason. I mean, they're saying something to him.
Right.
We should understand this, but something about the way that, or whatever, we don't. Another language, or maybe we can't quite hear it, or whatever. But we should understand it, because there's nothing that tells me about the word balloon that we shouldn't. But we don't when we hear it. It's
even if it was, it's not like it's he popped in and he's going blee blah blah blue. He's not. It's almost like R2D2 language almost.
Mm-hmm.
So is it because the transmission isn't coming in, and so it's so garbled that it's not even recognizable as anything other than beep bop bop bloop, or is that how they speak? Is that how, if we heard a Kryptonian speak, it would be like beep 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 bop?
Yeah, whatever the sounds of these things would be, that's what we would hear. Yeah.
And the biggest crime is that he drops the pie on the floor.
He drops the entire pie. Yeah. It's all gone now.
He didn't even get a bite.
No.
Other than earlier. And their fridge is full. That sucker is crammed full of stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They're wherever this pie came from would be kind of surprising, because it doesn't look like there's a slot on the shelf that is empty now. It
must have been in one of those drawers. But I'm seeing, let's see, milk. That might be a cantaloupe.
It looks like a cantaloupe. Look like a big. I think this is a big pickle jar here in the back. I don't know what else could be that jar. That's a huge jar.
Yep.
Maybe is this an alcoholic beverage on the next shelf?
That's what I thought. It looks kind of like almost like a 6-pack in a bag.
6-pack, almost, in a bag. Yeah, so
it's like Jonathan bought a 6-pack of beer, but he's kind of ashamed, so he left it in the bag.
He just kept it in the bag and put it in the fridge. Yeah, it looks like maybe a can of pop laying down on the shelf there next to it.
Yep.
No, the big jar on the top shelf is not pickles, because on the third shelf, this is your jar of pickles right there. You can tell there's a pickle on the cover, on the label. So, now from where he dropped it, he didn't pull it out of one of these lower shelves. It would have had to been one of the upper shelves in order for him to quote unquote drop it. And there still just isn't room. I mean, there's no room in that fridge. See here, he in the previous panel, 1, 2. Either the third or the fourth shelf is where he's pulling this out of.
Yeah, the shelf that you can't quite see what's on it because his hand and the pie.
Yeah, maybe over there to the left-hand side is where it was slotted in.
Yeah.
So poor
rhubarb pie. We really discuss the hard topics here.
Hey, absolutely.
It's
drawn there. It is something we are supposed to notice. If they didn't want us to notice it, they wouldn't have put it in the panel. As the artist, he could do so many more things, but he decided to fill the fridge. It's
well, and you see that behind Clark, they have one of those on the door, outside the door, ice makers.
Yes,
which for 1986, that's pretty good.
Well, not only that, but the fridge is full, so they have the money to keep the fridge full. Yeah, so yeah. That's Ma and Pa Kent are off. We don't know if we can say they're well off, but they're off. Yeah. They don't seem to be suffering.
I don't know if they've ever. I'm sure they have talked about what he farms. I feel like I've seen Clark and him baling hay.
I'll say I don't know alfalfa or soybeans, one or the other. Okay, next page. Clark attempts to talk. He is saying the response is still these weird symbols. Still, the character is drawn in this washed out kind of state. It's not like almost like it's not focused, or you're not focusing on it
Yeah.
enough. It
You
gives you this kind of impression.
feel almost see-through, like if there was something directly behind him, you'd see.
Right. Now, it's interesting you say that, because finally here at the bottom of the page, this character, person, whatever, reaches out. Now, if they were immaterial, it'd be no big deal. We've seen images like that before in movies, TV, whatever. But here, when he touches Clark, Clark is affected. So there is some amount of material to this image that he sees. It's more than just an image, because as they're discussing, the individuals reaching out touches Clark. It's interesting the way that is.
Yeah.
Byrne chose to do that. But suddenly Clark trips out, falls seemingly to the ground, screaming. Much fancifulness in the panel here, with the starbursts and circles and of different colors, like a sudden attack of like vertigo or something like that. He's seeing images, but they're just these colors and lights and things like that.
Yeah, I think this is when Purple Haze would start playing.
Purple
Yes,
Haze
in my
there you
brain.
go.
Yeah.
Yep, Brick in the Wall, one of those.
Magic Carpet Ride.
Yep. Clark falls in the next panel, so he's on the ground, but suddenly we see he is wearing his Superman outfit. Yep. The background has changed too. The room now that he appears in doesn't really strike you like the kitchen that he was in previously. So either this touch transported him, or something is going on in his head and he is envisioning this. So one of the two things, which goes in line with this character, my expectation of whatever this character is, where he is, or what he's doing, or something like that. This thing that happens to Superman just kind of falls in line with that weird, not right, what's going on kind of thing. Byrne just keeps going with it.
And his speech is switching from English. So obviously the weird characters mean that Kryptonians do speak in a weird beep boop click click type of language.
Right. Yeah. This tells me that the problem was that Superman was not understanding what was being said, because here he is speaking the same way, which means he is speaking the same language in addition to speaking English, so that we know what the hell's going on. So it's kind of a combination of both.
He says, what language I bleep speaking?
Yep.
Triangle circle.
So he's down on the ground, clutching his head. It hurt, or it was just so disorienting, whatever. Page turn, he stands up, or he's starting to stand up. He's still kneeling here, speaking back and forth a little bit more Kryptonian, or a little bit more whatever this is. We'll assume it's Kryptonian because of the guise of the individual. A couple words in English, more fanciful, maybe kind of machiney kind of looking room in the background.
Burn machines.
Then he, right, as opposed to Kirby, which is a different style machine entirely, a predecessor to Byrne. Yeah, perhaps he did it better than Byrne. I don't know. I'm not gonna just gonna throw that out there. It's for you to decide.
I never fully appreciated Kirby until like the last 5 years, maybe.
Okay, well that's fair. Right now, visually, is Kirby not necessarily. There are ways of drawing that I appreciate more personally.
Yeah.
What he was able to do and what it turned out looking like. You talk to people today and they refuse to pop out 6, 8, 10 pages a day. No, right. I want my art. I need 5 days for this one page. It's like, okay, you do you, but let's look over here at what Kirby was doing, and prima donna, I think, maybe, so but yeah, the volume that Kirby did for so long. Now, yes, after as age crept in, it did kind of tail off. You can notice that, but in his prime, the volume that Kirby put out and what it looked like is just profound. Nobody in comic books has ever done that since.
My favorite Kirby story whether it's true or not, I don't know. It's after Captain America first came out, before Kirby was really Kirby. Captain America was early in his career. But apparently, as the story goes, the first issue or first couple issues or whatever came out, and some homegrown Nazis showed up at Marvel offices and demanded that whoever created this comic come outside so they could beat him up. And Kirby was like, fuck yeah, I'm coming out right now. I'm going to kick your ass. And I don't know if he ever went out there. I don't know if there was ever an alter, but that's something I've always heard. That anecdote is that a couple of Nazis showed up at the Marvel offices trying to pick a fight, thinking, artists can't, Kirby fought in the war. So yeah.
It certainly fits in with everything else you've heard about the man.
Yeah.
As far as this person, that's easy for me to believe that he'd be like, yeah, hang on, let me pick up my bat over here in the corner, and I'll be right down, dog.
Come out there and give you a knuckle sandwich.
That's it. You just hang out. I'll take you down to Yancey Street, bitch.
Yep.
So the next panel, Superman is standing up. We get a better image of where he is, as does he. Definitely a futuristic place. Again, I guess you can go out on a limb and say somehow he is on Krypton, or he is seeing visions or versions of Krypton. That's what, when I read it, that's what I thought I was supposed to assume. Somehow he is now on Krypton. Again, whether it is physically or mentally, he has been taken there via contact with, again, an individual, a construct, whatever this thing is that he has been seeing. But you see that they are dressed similarly to this individual, strengthening the fact that this must be Krypton. The way it looks, the room that he's in, strengthening the fact that it must be Krypton. So we'll go ahead and say that Superman somehow has been transported to Krypton, which we know hasn't existed in the time that we were with Superman for thousands of years, I guess, 100. I don't know how long he was in the spaceship, because the planet basically destroyed when he took off. Ultimately, he landed on Earth. We don't know. I don't think we know in this series the time frame in between, but I'll say thousands of years since this planet existed, but yet here he is.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. They don't think they ever really explained that. I've always taken it that it, just took a couple of days to get to Earth, and
that goes completely against any amount of science, though. I mean, we're talking interstellar distances. We're talking light years. We're talking, and I think they, in the comic book, I think they still use those concepts. So you're looking at.
They did say that they hooked the Matrix up to a hyperlight drive. So yeah, only traveling the speed of light, which is still pretty fast, but unless Krypton's just right out there.
And for those of you, the reference, just to show what a big geek I am, that's 186,000 miles an hour, the speed of light. Wow. Yeah, I don't know why that's in there, but there's a file folder that is the only thing in it, is the speed of light. I don't know.
And I love
that and an astronomical unit. If you ever want to know how long an astronomical unit is, I don't know the measure, but I know that it is the distance from Earth to our sun. Okay. That is an AU, an astronomical unit, and it's a unit of measure for. I think it's for interplanetary distances. Just in our solar system, they use it as so many AUs. But yeah, from Earth to the sun is an astronomical unit.
That's interesting. Yeah, so I love the strips, the big fluffy strips of cotton that they have on their shoulders.
Whatever that is. It's
You've read Death of Superman, right?
Yes.
So during that series, of course, we get when he's starting the whole return, we see some flashes of Krypton. Mm-hmm. And granted, it's only a few years later. It's like 86, 87, 88, 89, 99, 6 years later, but they're still using John Byrne's designs.
Right now.
I always think of, when I think of Kryptonians, because I feel like the only time they showed up during Death of Superman was in, maybe it was Adventures of Superman number 500, which Tom Grummett penciled. He's very much a Byrne
Yeah,
Very
right.
under
Yeah, he
influence
is.
kind of guy.
Yeah,
So
the almost the next generation. Yeah.
Doug
So
says
Doug is
93.
showing he's just as big a geek as me. Yeah, I'm going to assume that that's the distance for an astronomical
Yeah,
unit. So there you go,
93
93 million. Which
million miles.
can we really? I mean, does that have any connection to anything in reality that I can understand? 93
Right.
million. That's just to our sun. Now, we're talking interstellar, so many light years away. So 186,000 miles an hour times however many hours times however many days for a year. That you're talking about like PhD math. This is just
Right.
getting so big that us normal people just don't get it. There's no comparison.
Yeah. Otherwise, I guess if they meant it to be just a few days, they would have shown him going into a wormhole or something. And
Something like that. Yeah.
yeah,
So okay, so somewhere back in time, we do know, however long ago it was, that Krypton doesn't exist because
yeah,
it blew up when he left. It blowing up was the reason he left. However you want to pinpoint that, the start of Superman equals the end of Krypton. However you want to describe it. That's so these people see him and he sees them. So everybody is aware. They see him. Superman knows they see him because they start to run away from him
right.
because
They
I
freak
don't
out.
know, because he just appeared, because of the way he's dressed. Who knows why? He does say something. He says, "Where am I?" That I don't think would be scary enough to make people run away. So it's not what he said. Trying to get away. Wait, don't run away, please. Help me. Tell me where I. And that panel, we see that his focus has shifted from the people to something else. Something else has drawn his attention. Byrne has drawn his head turned. We see we see the lines showing that he's speed line turned his head. And this is an awesome image
Yeah.
because to me, this shows how infinitesimal Superman is to wherever he's at. It's a huge building that the camera is panned away from so that you can see part of the world that this is. A world of, at the very least, multiple moons. It looks like 3
Right.
moons, none of which are tearing the planet apart. So I don't know how this works scientifically, unless there's 3 moons directly across from
Well,
it and they're like canceling each other out. But
the big one, I'm assuming, is their red sun.
it's the sun. That is freaking huge. They must be like this far away from it. So I mean, yeah. But huge building, right? And then you see different whatever, and then you see this line that is presumed to be a window, and then you see a speech bubble. The previous panel, he starts out, "Tell me where I," and then in this speech bubble, you see M, and the line leads to this little teeny window in this huge building on this huge planet. Automatically, he is not on Earth, Alice, anymore.
It makes me think of the opening to the movie, even though it's not a sci-fi movie. The movie Silverado.
Okay.
Like, how it opens inside this cramped little cabin. Suddenly he's fighting these bad guys who are trying to get into the cabin. He kills them all. And it's all takes place in this cramped little cabin. And then he goes over to the door, stands in the doorway. The camera then goes through the doorway, and then boom, there's just all that, New Mexico or wherever that is, just the buttes and it just opens the world up. It goes from this tiny little room to just, and that's exactly what we get here.
Right.
He's in a kitchen. Then he's in this strange room with strange people, and then all of a sudden the world just opens up, and you realize, it was nicely done.
Somebody yells a name that we recognize. Superman doesn't recognize it. It's a female, still dressed in this Kryptonian stuff. I think we've established. Well, I'll just keep saying we're on Krypton.
Yeah.
Or Superman is on Krypton. Don't know how, don't know why, but he is. Individual yells out his name. Automatically, I would think that this was his mother, but I can't support that right now.
Actually, you can, because what she says is Jor-El, which is his dad. She thinks it's Jor-El.
Right.
And then she says, "Oh, you're not Jor-El. I see
Right.
you in him." And then she goes, "Yes, you are my son."
Later on, yes, but
Right.
in this first panel
Right,
here,
that
where
first panel, yep.
she, yeah, as far as we know, it's a female yelling out his name. To me, it was his mother yelling out his name.
Yeah.
But of course, it's not his name; it's the name of his dad. And even more so, if it's the name of his dad, then this must be, I don't know, dad's mom, dad's sister, dad's wife, something. And then the next several panels go through, we see she is talking to him. We find out that she feels that this is her son, even though she has never seen her son this age.
Yeah.
So Jor-El is the husband. This is his mom. I want to say Amanda, but wasn't that Spock's mom's name? Laura.
Laura. People pronounce it differently.
Superman. She says, "My son," and then we go back to the real world where Clark is, and we see the female that was on the cover. So now, in this segment, we have seen the fuzzy, weird Kryptonian individual that was on the cover, and now we have seen the female that was on the cover. So now, whatever this is, what is this? 13, about a third of the way through the book, we've seen everything that we can put together why they use these elements on the cover. Yeah. Everything on the cover now has appeared, maybe not the same way, but all of the characters and everything. So we are back on Earth, back with our Clark, who is still dressed normally. Well, the normally got out of bed, put my robe on Clark, which is the last we saw. But now he's outside. So he's wandered outside. Not only has he wandered outside, but he has wandered outside to somewhere that somebody that doesn't even live here has seen him, is concerned about the way he's acting, and goes to interact to find out, are you okay? Do you need help? Whatever. So immediately my question was, in the middle of the night, why is Lana... was she coming to talk to him in the middle of the night? Or
I'm going to assume yes. I'll be honest. I actually didn't sit down to read this before we recorded. I read it months and months and months ago. I've read this probably 6 times in the last 5 years, but they may, I don't know, maybe in the next couple of pages, they may explain it. But yeah, I'm assuming she was coming to what, but then again, why would she be going to the Kent's house in the middle of the night?
Yeah.
Unless she's just out for a walk.
And I think we have seen other images to show you that the Kent farm is quasi by itself. It's not in a neighborhood with a whole bunch of other houses that Lana could have been truly the next door neighbor.
No, it's a
Lana has made it a point at this particular time to be here. And the question is why? Yeah, I don't care how hurt Clark made her at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. She's not going to go to his grandmother and grandfather's house to wake Clark up, to talk to him, to sort out her injured feelings. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way.
Kind of reading ahead to see if she says
so he's still kind of fuzzy. He was on Krypton and now he's on Earth. Well, he was on Earth and then he was on Krypton and now he's on Earth again, and now he's outside, whereas he was inside, and now Lana is here and she wasn't here before. So I mean, all of this stuff, plus trying to assimilate what he did see on Krypton, his mother, according to her, so all of this has happened in just seconds, milliseconds maybe. And so which is interesting, because we kind of see this conceptually, we see it a little bit later in the story again, about Superman's ability to assimilate information being overwhelmed. And that's kind of a spoiler for what goes on later on. Little interaction here. I don't know. We see that Lana, and I'm going to be very non-understanding about this, but Lana does seem very butthurt, and that's the way I'm going to put it, about something. Let's see. Yes. I left for a long time. I had to leave after what you did to me, did to my life. And she just leaves it that way. She has turned her back to him, and it looks like she's going to walk off, throwing this little tidbit over her shoulder as she leaves. Oh, what you did to me, what you did to my life. And I'm like, oh, come on. Can we drama anymore? Are we really, well, my light is getting really dark. I'm in the dark here. Sorry about that, guys. It's I don't know if that's any better. For those of you watching, of course, on the podcast, you don't give a damn, so it's okay. My camera got really, I don't know. Anyways, okay, back to the story here. Sorry. Yeah. So what she said affects him so much that he was sitting trying to get himself back. As she is leaving, he stands up to stop her from leaving because what she said is so pained from her point of view, so desperately hurtful as far as how she no, these aren't the right words, so intense. All of a sudden she was concerned with Clark. Are you okay? What are you doing out here in your jammies walking around? Not to even discuss what the hell I'm doing here. So, yeah. Anyways, who knows? But we're focusing on Kent. She's worried about Kent. And then all of a sudden, she's like, "Oh, okay, you're gonna live." And she turns to leave and throws out this crap over her shoulder, emotional crap, like a big shovel. She just like, yeah. And then he's like, "No, wait, hang on. What are you talking about?" So now we get into a section, and I wanted to ask. This all would have had to have happened in the first issue of this miniseries. Did any of this occur that I don't remember?
No, there's a moment in the first issue after the scene where he finds out that, Jonathan shows him the rocket. They go back to the house. Right. His mom is like, "Did you tell him?" And he goes, "Yeah, I told him." And Clark's like, "Yeah, he told me." And Clark decides he's going to go out into the world and blah, blah, blah. Right. But then he says, "But I have something I need to do first." And he leaves. This is what he wants to do.
Perhaps this is the interim. Yeah. So we see Lana, and she and Clark go on a romantic walk. They were looks like they were already scheduled for a little get together after the game. This is the after the game. Still the evening after the big game. Yeah. So they were going to go out on a date. And they meet up, and the date doesn't quite go the way Lana always dreamed it would. I don't know. I find all of this very needlessly squishy, gushy. You really are just a 16-year-old child, aren't you? Yeah. Because it is that unrealistic. And I know that sounds harsh, and I probably mean it to be that way. I'm 57 years old and jaded as shit. So I'm like, yeah, come on.
She's teenage girl getting ready for the dance. The guy who's going to take her is the love of her life. He won the big football game.
He's the big man on campus. He's the shit. I mean, if at this time, if you could date someone as a dude, of course you want to date the head cheerleader, Yep. So as a female, you want to date the jock. This is the dude,
So he shows up to take her to the dance, but instead, let's go for a walk. I need.
Let's have a talk. It's a dear Jane talk.
And
literally,
she even mentions there in that middle of the page, the wide panel in the middle of the page, they take this walk. She's expecting that he's taking her out there to ask him to marry her,
to propose. Yeah. I mean, this is we go from Superman helping we go from these big concepts to this. You don't even have enough experience to understand, not him, but the people that he's with. So yeah, so not needless to say, not yet. So if that's not bad enough, he is letting her down gently, telling me softly within song, with his song, telling the whole. I'm sorry. He suddenly picks her up and flies with her. So not only am I telling you that, and Clark isn't a dumb guy. He had to kind of know how she was feeling and where she wanted things to go. Right, to some extent, maybe not expressly, but
he's a teenage kid. He could be, obviously he's oblivious. All he's thinking about is himself. What's good. And granted, he was given some pretty big news that, but still, yeah, he obviously.
So this is her dream come true.
Yeah.
And he's going to propose to her. And they're walking and she's finding out, well, maybe he's not going to propose to me. And then all of a sudden he scoops her up and frickin' flies off with her. Literally.
Yeah.
You know, because what I want to tell you is so extreme. I can't tell you. Here, let me show you. And grabs her up and flies off with her. Now,
making everything even more romantic
by absolutely
flying her under his own power through the night sky.
I am surprised she's not just absolutely thrashing around so much that he drops her. I mean, please, this is
her narration tells us that it was like a dream, a beautiful, magical dream come true.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think I'd be like, what the fuck?
Put me the F down. What are you doing? What is this? You know, thrashing, whatever. Just
10 years ago, maybe, I went to the Omaha Zoo with my son. He was still in high school. He was in the gifted program, and they did this trip. They do these things at the Omaha Zoo where you can spend the night. And we slept.
Cool.
Yeah, we slept in the aquarium. It's like they closed down the zoo. You get a private tour, and then we slept in their big aquarium room. It was really neat. But oh my God, why was I telling this story?
Something about flying, being surprised, thrashing.
Yeah. So the next day, then of course the zoo opens and we spend the day at the zoo, and we walk from one end of the zoo to the other. And we learn while we're there that there's this big, like a ski lift that'll take you from one end of the zoo to the other.
Right.
So we're like, well, let's just ride that to the back to the other side of the zoo. We get up there, we sit in, this bench that I think maybe had a bar in front of us.
Right.
And because we had to go up into this almost like a tower. So as soon as I sit in the chair and we leave the platform, we're probably 4 stories above the ground at that point.
Okay.
And I look down, my legs are dangling with nothing but air below me. And I just look at my son and I said, this was a mistake. I don't want to be up here at all. And I freaked out the entire time.
You don't do heights?
No, not at all. I'm very top heavy, and I tend to fall over if I turn too fast. Sometimes I'll start to, whoa. So, you watch a movie with somebody standing at the edge of a building, just looking down, I would fall. But so, yeah. If I was her at this point, I'd be like, oh my God, put me on the ground. You're going to kill me. But she's going, oh,
it's so
hearts are
he's
swimming
flying
around
me around. Yeah. Like that's, yeah. Anyways,
it's the scene from the movie with Margot Kidder. Is this a dream? Is this real? As he's flying around.
And what was she? Was it a nightgown she had on?
A negligee or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So next page, Superman continues flying her around. A little bit of discourse here that I believe is all from, looks like her point of view, which this whole scene, of course, is from her point of view, because she's relaying to Clark why she was just a crap shoveler, tossing the nasty comments over her shoulder as she was going to leave. Not that this at all justifies that kind of treatment. I used to love you. Here's my shit. Carry it for me. It doesn't. It shouldn't work that way. I'll put it that way. So then she's continuing. Something else, I guess, to keep in mind is hers may be a more romantic point of view as far as what we're seeing than what actually occurred. So this may also be very slanted as far as how and the sequence of events and things like that. Something to keep in mind ultimately as well. Sits her down, gives her the brotherly kiss on the forehead, and she even mentions, you kissed me like a brother kissing his sister, which I thought that was off limits completely anyways. A brother, it's like kissing your sister. So, and then, so these 3 panels after we see them flying and they sit down, probably at her house, it appears to be.
Yeah, front porch of her aunt's house.
the two of them, him kissing her on the forehead, and it's very easy. He is much taller than she is. She's a very slight girl. He's a very big broad, which I noticed, but I didn't say anything at the very beginning. He looked very hefty compared to Ma and Pa Kent when he came into town.
He's a big dude.
He was a big old boy.
Yeah.
So kind of contrary to really what Superman needs to be. I mean, he can be normal physique like the rest of us.
Yeah.
In shape, but I mean, he doesn't have to. Yeah. So kisses her on the forehead, and then we see him flying off, leaving her on the porch, clutching the banister. Oh, it's so romantic. Oh, it's so sad. Yeah. And you were gone from the front porch of my aunt's house. So that's where her mom or dad's sister. I don't know. I guess maybe she doesn't live in her house. Maybe she lives with her aunt. Gone from Smallville, full frontal of Lana, rather upset. Doesn't look like she's like pained, crying, upset. It looks more like she's like a surprised, disturbed kind of upset.
Shocked. Yeah.
Yeah.
Confused.
Revert back to now. Gone from my life, and everything good was gone with you. Okay. So now, okay, let's take a step back. Two people. One person left for a period of time, rather abruptly, breaking off a relationship that was seemingly much more important to one than it was the other. Okay. Not that, of course, we never have that in real life.
Right.
So the individual that left comes back into town. And the very first thing that the person that was most affected by the separation does is comes in and just says, here is my big treasure trove of shit that I have been carrying around for the past 18 years. I think it's because of you. Here, you unpack it, you deal with this. Oh, by the way, yeah, I dealt with it years ago. I'm okay now.
Okay, so think about this for a second. Think about the movie Back to the Future.
Okay.
So the big scene in the movie where he's back in 1955. He's being chased around the square by Biff and the gang. He's on the little makeshift skateboard. He starts out in that diner.
Mm-hmm.
And so while this is all happening out on the square, his mom and her friends, along with everybody else, they're watching this happen through the window. And at one point, my memory is correct, he comes skating by the window or something. They're chasing him. And she looks at her friends because she's so in love with him, right? But this new guy in town, Marty McFly. And she's like, he's like a dream. So that is the mindset that Lana, I think, is in on this night, right? They just won the big game. Her boyfriend just won the big game. They got the sock hop. The coolest guy in school is going to take her to the sock hop. He shows up, says, let's go for a walk. We need to talk. They go stroll in the moonlight. She's all like, oh my God, he's going to ask me to marry him. And then he goes, hey, I have superpowers. And then flies her around, takes her back to the porch and goes, oh, and I'm leaving Smallville forever. Bye. And then leaves. And she's like, what the fuck? You just shared with me your biggest secret. I thought that we were going to spend the rest of our lives together. And then you kiss me like you kiss me on the head like a brother, and then you just leave.
You go.
And I have to deal with the aftermath of that.
Yeah,
but still, when, like you said, then when she's like, but I've gotten over it.
Yeah, really. I mean, she unloads all of this stuff on him, and she says, but I'm okay now. I've adjusted.
Yeah, because she even mentions during the whole thing that she says how difficult it's been these last 7-8 years or whatever, seeing him doing his thing and not going, I'm going to call the papers and tell them that this is Clark Kent, which, we've all have had angry, vindictive people in our lives. So I get that.
Oh, yeah. Not only that, but I'll go so far as to say, yes, there are people in my life that did I have the opportunity to do that, I would have done it in a heartbeat. Yeah. I'd have been like, oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Well, and I think the weirdest thing about this whole scene, we get Lana Lang in the very first issue we barely get Lana Lang.
Right. Yeah.
And then she comes into this issue. It's like, oh, by the way, remember this background person from issue 1? She is a huge part of this story.
Right. She wasn't a background person.
We just haven't mentioned it until now. She's a huge part of the story. We're not going to tell you why. See, we're just going to go on and do other things. Taken by itself, it feels weird.
It feels placed.
Yeah.
There was no lead in. There was really no hint. There was nothing. And then all of a sudden you've got this bam. Oh, this is a big deal.
From what I remember from the first few issues into the main Superman action, blah, 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 she plays a part in that. And you have to have the knowledge that she is a big part of his life in order to understand why what's going on in this story later means so much to him. And so it almost feels like we get to issue 6 and John Byrne's like, oh crap, I'm going to tell this Lana Lang story in the main series in a couple issues. And I really haven't, I need to set up that she's a big part of his life. So here, blah, and just vomits this out. It was issue 6. Again, we're going to talk the hell out of the ending when we get there, but issue 6 really feels like oh crap. I gotta say, I have a few more things that I have to make clear.
There are some things that I haven't covered yet.
Yeah. So blah, let me vomit this issue out. And
I mean, the scene continues on for several pages here. There's not
words,
really much more that I can add other than what I've said. Of course, Clark, he's still Clark here. And I say that because the very next scene, he's Superman. So I later, whatever. But he of course is very, he feels badly for what has occurred because it certainly was never anything that he intended. She seems to have not taken it well. She went to therapy, and I mean, it was a very big emotional and psychological deal to her throughout her life up until some point prior to now.
Yeah.
But she still even carries the baggage that she feels it necessary to bring Clark down and express to him the pain that she has, even though she has had closure. And I keep saying this because obviously that is not the case. If you are okay, if you have accepted, adjusted, if there is closure, you don't have this kind of scene with the individual that caused you this pain, because in essence, the pain is no longer pain. It's a part of your life. It's something that you have experienced and you are on the other side. All of this stuff is no longer necessary unless you do not have closure, and you need this scene to get to that point. She said she was at that point, but yet she has this scene. So I'm like, okay, either you're good or you're not. Which is it? I suspect not, because now she has had this scene, and I'm like, so over all these years, you still haven't gotten to the point that you don't need this scene, and we just had this scene. So next month, what are you going to be like? Because your closure perhaps just occurred now.
Yeah.
And so
it feels like maybe, after all these years of therapy, she feels like she's better. It's like, all right, I've dealt with this, I'm ready.
Maybe.
But then she sees him for the first time, and it's like, nope, I got one last
I'm not better.
Yeah. I have one last thing to do. I have to get it all out. I have to tell him how I feel, and then I'll be better. But it's at the same time, it's like I've known people in my life that would, like somebody would say, yeah, I loaned my car to my sister and it had a full tank of gas when I gave it to her. But when she returned it, the gas was on empty, which is fine. And it's like, once you say, which is fine, you mean you're pissed off. You don't mean that, which is fine.
It's not fine. Yeah. Or you wouldn't say that.
I've heard people say that all the time. I mean, and then they tore out one of the pages, which is fine. No, it's not. Or we wouldn't say that. Right?
That's like, that's the same thing as saying, well, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be an asshole.
Yeah,
it's like, no, actually you're saying that you are going to be an asshole, and you're just giving everybody a heads up. Yeah.
Same with no pun intended. 9
Yes,
times out of 10, the reason you're
absolutely.
saying no pun intended is because you intended that pun,
Right, and you
you
want to
want
make
to point
sure
it
that,
out.
yeah,
Yeah,
you want to make sure everybody
yeah,
knows. Oh, that was a pun, by the way.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't intend to be so clever, but in case you missed it, I'm going to point it out.
I was clever.
Yeah.
It's, yeah. Oh, okay. So, and the end of this scene is similar in character to the scene that she was describing when Clark left, because he kissed her on the forehead like a brother kissing his sister.
Yeah.
She caresses his cheek like a family member, a mom, a sister, or something like that, would caress the cheek of someone in giving them difficult news or bad news, or, it's that loving gesture, but it's not, it's a, what would you call it? I guess you would call it a platonic or a maternal love, not a sexual kind of love between the male and female, gonadal kind of situation there. I have to qualify that to make sure that, I mean, that's there are two gonads, people. Just in case you're wondering, there are two gonads. One is called an ovary, and one is called a testicle. Two gonads.
Whoa.
So that's the biology major in me.
Today's,
Anything else is possible. Go ahead.
Today's Superman Super Show biology lesson was brought to you by Ed
Yes.
Moore and the School of Science.
No test free. That's just for your edification.
Oh, snap. No pun intended.
No. Yeah. I was just being clever. So we move on here. We see Clark, presumably the sunrise the next day, because we have those same images that we saw when the sun was setting when he first got into town. Sunrise. He's dressed as Superman with a glowy S symbol on his chest for whatever reason. He's blacked out. He's in shadow, but his symbol is glowing so that we know that it's
artistic
him.
Reasons.
Because everybody else was running around with the cape. So because we see the cape, we don't know who this is. We need to see this. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, moving on.
There was this was still around the time when they thought that their readers were not that intelligent.
Yeah. Okay. So now, Superman is digesting all of this stuff that he learned as Clark about Lana, thinking about himself. We see that he has feelings for Lois, which were expressed much earlier when he was sitting around having his catch up with Ma and Pa Kent, right? Wasn't that earlier? It's not after this. It's
No.
Now, so we find out the reason that we're out here, seemingly in the middle of nowhere, Kansas farmland, as Superman walking around, is because, I don't know exactly why, but he's decided he wants to revisit the spaceship that he was originally found in. So he's gone to where that was hidden, although not hidden very well, and finds out that it's gone. He sees that there are some tire tracks of a large vehicle less than 6 months old. Yeah, I can follow it. It's not here. I want it. I'll track it down. But before that, we have another visit from the Kryptonian world of the past.
I don't know how his super sense. This is one of the powers that I wish he would have explained a little bit better. Mm-hmm. Just the fact that he looks at the tire tracks and he thinks to himself, my super senses reveal a large vehicle pulled up to this site within the last 6 months.
Yeah. What super sense would that have been? Yeah.
I want to know what about those tracks tells him that.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure there could be a very logical explanation, but I'd like to, I want to know more how he knows those tracks were left within the last 6. I want to know that more than I want to know how he gets to Smallville without anybody knowing that.
Right. Comic book logic. Yeah. What is it that Casada said? It's magic, or
we don't have to explain it. It's magic.
We don't have to explain that. Yeah. So there we go. So this individual that appears, this Kryptonian individual, starts out by saying, my son. So there we go. There's a biggie. We saw Mom in the earlier visitation, and now we see Dad.
I am your father. No.
But he seems to be breathing okay. There doesn't seem to be any in this case. So it's yeah. Character reaches out, touches him. We don't see it, but the way Superman reacts, touches him on the head again, like the previous. So apparently, that's the only way to do this is to grab someone by the head. And
Jor-El is basically a USB drive.
Giant. Yes, he's a biologic USB.
And that's how he's connecting it to the computer that is Superman's brain.
And by the way Superman reacts, this is like USB 8.0 or something like that, because he doesn't.
He's an old computer.
He doesn't take it very well.
No.
This time, though, everybody stays on Earth, the Earth that we're on as we're reading the book. Jor-El is still standing here with his arm extended, while Superman now has fallen to the ground, clutching his head, either shaking or trembling. There's some kind of movement lines then. And we see that in his mental exposition, Superman is saying, happening again, a million alien images, I can't resist them, my mind, my humanity. Is an interesting thing to say, given some proclamations that he makes at the end of the story. Kind of I don't know that you would really be able to know it at the time that you're reading this, but it is foretelling of what comes up. But it's so, I think, subtly done that most people would not have realized that it's going to come up again. But it does. Before that, Ma and Pa Kent, they go to find Clark because apparently, I don't know, maybe the fact that he was missing in the morning, maybe the fact that when they got up, the fridge was open and the pie was on the ground, whatever.
Yeah.
They have been.
They're looking. Yeah. They mentioned that Lana called.
Okay. So that's where it starts. Yeah. I saw him fly towards this field after Lana called. What? That's mighty convenient, but okay, whatever. So Ma and Pa Kent are zooming through the countryside. Now, presumably, this may still be their farmland, might still be their property, but they're off-roading in this truck, and it's not. There's not roads here. I mean, they're just humping across the fields in this truck.
It's their field because it's just right next to where
that's
ship,
where
the rocket
it came down.
There,
yeah. So they're looking for him. They see him. Quick stop. Of course, in the movie they would be screeching, but we all know in the real world you can't screech in dirt. It doesn't work that way. Okay. One of the few things that I just cannot overlook in movies and TV shows when they screech in sand or gravel, or I'm like, okay. Yeah.
I'm the same way, but it's when it comes to sound effects in regard to anything metal. Mm-hmm. Somebody's got a sword and they hold the sword, and for some reason you hear clink, clunk, clunk, clink, clink, clink. Just so you have, I guess, an audio.
So it's metal.
Make it more solid. Yeah. It's this. Somebody's carrying a gun and it's always like click, clack, clickety clack. But then yet when they're being all stealth, the gun never makes any noise.
Nope.
You
can cock it however many times. And
they could just be standing there and go like this with a gun and it goes click, clack, clack, clickety, clickety clack. That stuff just drives me crazy. And then yet if they're sneaking around, now the gun's not making any noise.
Right. Yeah. Stop the truck. Pa, is this Pa in the blue? Yeah. Pa jumps out, reaches in the back of the truck, grabs the shovel. He's going to go help his boy, from their position, it looks as if this individual is standing over Clark, who has fallen to his knees.
Yep.
We saw that it was more a side-by-side kind of what really happened. The individual didn't sneak up on him to do something to him. Although from Pa Kent's angle, it looks much more aggressive as far as what is occurring here. So he grabs his shovel. He's going to even things up here with it. Runs out, smacks the Kryptonian apparition, which we now see also that other people can see. So it's not just something that Superman can see. It is visible, period, because other people, non-Kryptonian, can see it. Pa does a good job. Hits it about the shoulder, or maybe was trying to decapitate the individual
Right.
with that shovel, which is
Yeah.
wow. I think I would have gone for like the middle of the back, or maybe the knees,
And
if I was trying to take the individual
yeah,
down. But
I think he's smacking him in the either the front or the back
could be,
of the
yeah,
shoulder.
could be, yeah. There's nothing about Pa Kent that would make you think that he's trying to take the dude's
Right.
head off with
It's
that
like,
swing.
I
He's
gotta,
just trying to protect his boy.
yeah,
So
got to stop this guy, but I'm not going to kill anybody.
makes contact. The image apparition individual, whatever we want to call it, disappears in a big puff of pink smoke with pops and fizzits and electrical noises.
Yeah.
So
Doesn't quite fit technology.
Yeah, no. And we find out that whatever the image truly was, essentially disintegrated the shovel on contact as well, because all Pa Kent is left with is just the portion of the handle that he was holding, basically. So after having seen that, of course, now Clark is like, it shook him out of whatever was going on, because now he has someone to be concerned about, just like Paul was concerned about him. And it clears up his thinking and everything. And so he checks on him, and looking at the shovel and everything, it's like, wow, you could have been electrocuted according to that reaction if you had touched it or held the shovel wrong or whatever. I don't think self-powered holographic projection. Yeah, I think there's a little bit more substance to it than a holographic projection. I don't think a holographic projection would have eaten the shovel, the metal part mainly, as well as the wooden part, the way this did. So there's more to it than that.
It would on the holodeck on Star Trek Next Generation if they turn the safety measures off.
You can't mix the properties. That's not
hard
allowed.
light.
Not allowed.
So, well, who is it? Claw does the solid light.
Yeah,
No, his is sound.
Sound. Yeah, the solid light. Solid light. Of course, the first person that comes to mind is the Green Lanterns. But
yep.
Marvel. There's got Songbird. No, she uses
Dazzler,
sound too.
Does she do solid light projections?
I think she does like more like plasma energy light rather than a solid light construct. Now there have been several mutants that could make like sculptures and things like that out of solid light.
Yeah,
I don't know of any superhero that wields it that I can think of easily. So
there, what is the super team from the alternate universe in Marvel that's supposed to be the Justice League?
Has Power Princess and Tom Thumb and
can't think of I can't think of their name for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird.
Neither can I. But yeah, what is there an individual on there that
I would think so. I'm going to look it up right now. You keep doing.
Okay. So we have a little bit of dialogue, or as Steven is fond of saying, exposition.
Exposition.
Here in these two panels, it's like a third exposition, 2/3 picture art.
Squadron Supreme is the
yes.
name of the team, and there appears to be a dude on here who looks like he probably has light powers, but I'm not going to read this whole thing to find out.
Not the rainbowy looking Green Lantern dude that has the gem in his hand.
I think so, something like that.
Okay, that might because he would
Squadron
be
Supreme. Doug and I came.
Okay. Yeah, he would be the example, the dude with the prism, because he uses light like Green Lantern. Yeah. He's the Green Lantern analog. So, the quick little, what did you see? What did you see? What happened? What happened? Back and forth here. And Superman takes off, much like he did back in the old days with Lana Lang after the kiss. He just like, oh, okay, thanks. And it's like, dude, what? Okay. Pretty burn picture here. Next page, Superman flying. Which reminds me, I didn't point out the one scene. It's several back here where he is flying and he's holding the edges of his cape. Oh no, the edges of his cape. It's when he's flying to his ship's location.
Yeah.
The cape is so long that it is draping over his body like draperies would, and he's flying with his arms out, kind of cocked down, But the cape, it's not flowing behind him or flowing up. It is just falling across his body and then draping down underneath it. And that's that's a really cool
Yep.
image because you don't really see the cape drawn that way. It's almost like the cape is like tied to his body, but then it's so big that it's just drooping rather than
Yeah.
fluttering behind him, which I
And
would honestly assume it did. Is it,
so you got to assume that he's not flying very fast in that
No,
panel. And
probably he's looking because he's trying to find the exact place. He doesn't know where it is.
and the panel right before it, I think a lot of times folks forget that Superman's cape does come over his shoulders. It's all kind of
Yeah,
tucked into his
it
shirt.
attaches up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, not just back here on the back of him, but it's like sewn in.
It's almost cloak like in that.
Yeah, rather than a cape, it's
Yeah.
a cloak.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to point out that scene with the cloak draping underneath him. That looked cool. Almost looked like multiple limbs because you got the two arms.
Yeah.
Then you got the cape down like other arms or whatever. Yeah. So now we start to get much more exposition. Let me flip a couple pages here. Yeah. Superman is flying, and he flies to a very wintry, dare I say, future location of the Fortress of Solitude, maybe? Just without the fortress. It's not, but but he's flying, and he's flying and thinking, and ultimately he ends up somewhere way north or way south. Either I assume the North Pole or the South Pole. Very snowy, frigidy. From Kansas, I guess it would be nothing for him to turn and go north, and maybe he's just gone north into Canada a little bit. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. Going to the South Pole, that would be a hell of a jaunt for him to stop and think, if he flew south from Kansas. That's what, probably 2/3 of the globe just about to get there, whereas, yeah. So whichever, fanboys, North, South Pole, I don't know. But I thought it was interesting that that's where he went, knowing that ultimately his Fortress of Solitude, I think that is located at the North Pole.
Yes. I do know that at one point post-crisis, it's in the jungles of the Amazon.
Nah, that's weird.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know which came, because in the Silver Age, it's always been, like around the North, when the Ark, whatever that
in Antarctica. Yeah. What far north, whatever you want to call
it. And so I don't, post-crisis, I know that at one point it's like either in the Amazon, somewhere in South America. And I don't remember, because I feel like now it's where it's supposed to be. So
right.
I don't know if it was here first in post-crisis, and then he has one in South America, and then I don't know. Maybe we'll find out.
Jungle sounds weird. I would think that there is a possibility of it being found there. Whereas other than like a flyover, there are parts of the North Pole that just don't get messed with. They're not, yeah. But he's thinking, and he's flying around, and ultimately he ends up somewhere, I assume, far north. But he's considering everything. Most importantly, he's considering the 87 terabytes of information that the USB hologram pumped into his head about all things Kryptonian, all knowledge, whether it be whatever, pop culture, everything about the Kryptonian, probably people.
Yep.
Everything, their whole history.
Yeah, their history, their culture, all that.
Everything. Yeah.
And the more he thinks about it, it's like the more he's able to access. It's just like,
right. The deeper the rabbit hole goes.
Yeah.
I would say he's thinking.
But the analogy of, basically the hologram being a USB drive, that's a good analogy. I mean, that's exactly what's happening.
He's had a big info dump.
Yeah. Which is easier. Thank God for us that we don't have to spend an entire issue learning all this.
Well, yeah, really. Well, but arguably we have spent more. We have spent hundreds and hundreds of issues assimilating what we're asking Superman to do in a couple pages here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now he's got all of this. It really brings home to him that he is not Terran. He's Kryptonian. So we have this argument about, is he an alien or is he not? he kind of puts it to rest by saying he was born when he was taken or when he left the spaceship, which occurred on Earth. That's when he was born. So he was born on Earth. I could see a solid argument for, nah, you're a Kryptonian because that is where you were created. And so, you get this.
They're trying to use kind of almost the citizenship analogy.
Yeah, it's a semantical argument.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of works and it doesn't work because you get a Japanese couple living in Japan. They do the nasty. She gets pregnant. They come to America on a work visa. The baby is born in America. Technically, the baby's American.
But that's by writing.
Right.
That's by it. That doesn't mean that the reality that is the case. That is just
it's man's law. It's not science, biology.
I would not have a problem saying that child is Japanese. My basis for that would be the peoples and the cultures that it's a part of. They transplanted their culture in a much smaller version to here, wherever here is, and that is what the baby was born into. So they are nature versus nurture, Jug says. Yes, among several other things, of course. Right now, as we record this, we have major issues with definitions of citizenship and who is officially and who isn't, and so who is us ultimately. Okay, right? This is what it gets down to. Who is us and who is them, and how we treat non-us, which is them. That all of this poo-poo, that's what it boils down to. Us and them. Because us want to treat them, and I don't necessarily mean Steeven and I are part of us. I'm just referencing the words. Us want to treat them differently because they're not us. So first we have to define, and then we can treat them the way we want to treat them.
But it's literally taking that semantic argument, using, like you said, citizenship rights written by man to, I mean, really, when it comes down to it, whether or not he was, I don't know if this speaks to society at the time, the fact that they feel like they have to say, yes, he was conceived on Krypton. Mm-hmm. Biologically, he's alien, but he was born on Earth, which, according to the argument here, gives him a larger connection to Earth. And I don't know. On the one hand, I'm like, I think that's pretty cool. But on the other hand, it's like, that's crap. Because whether he was sent to Earth, already born as a baby, and then is raised on Earth versus being born, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't change who he is, period.
So perhaps the question should not be us or them, or or what do you think? Perhaps the question should be, what do they think?
Yeah.
What are they according to them? Because that is the answer or definition that matters. Not that if they say they don't feel that they belong to a particular group, that they should be excluded, but just when we get down to all of this shit, what do they feel? How do they believe they fit into wherever they're at? That's
because it's almost like they're trying to appeal to the comic book fan that has said, I think Superman's a good idea. I would really like that character, but he's not from Earth.
He's an alien.
Yeah, I can't get behind a hero who's not an Earthling. And it's like, okay, well, now I guess technically he was born on Earth, but it doesn't change a goddamn thing. He's still biologically, he's an alien.
It's what he has chosen to do. He will now defend Earth unto his death.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So, so that comes up where he was born or when he was, is he an us or them? That's what Byrne is addressing here. on top of all of this information about Krypton, about the Kryptonian peoples that he is trying to assimilate. So that is a part of Superman's having to determine, is he an us or a them? Because if we assume us is Earth, is Terran, is human, then them would be people born on Krypton. So now he has all of this information about Superman, about him being a them. All of it. So, but really now, well, and I will just, almost at the last panel of the book, and it's official. We have crossed over the 3-hour mark. I believe that makes this the longest episode. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It was my goal. No, it wasn't my goal. I don't care. So us or them. Final panel. Okay. Probably in ways the prettiest of the burn art for this issue. Okay. Superman standing atop a rocky outcrop. I don't know why that's what it had to be, but that was it. Clouds, so it tells you probably that this is an elevated thing, like he is on top of a mountain. Okay, we'll keep with this analogous, memey kind of picture that we're getting. Okay, so now I am looking at this picture from the bottom up. Okay, feet. He's standing. He's got the boots. He's got the Superman of the time attire, blue, red, yellow. You get up to his fists, his hands, and he's standing arms akimbo. I like that word, akimbo. And it's not the curled arm muscle pose, but he's resolute, standing with his arms down. And moving on up, you're crossing this big, phenomenally broad chest, which I still position that Superman, because of where he gets his powers, he doesn't have to be muscular at all. It has nothing to do with his powers. Why he stays in shape like this, I don't know, unless he just wants to. I mean,
and while I agree with you, I think given if we're looking at a Superman of the Golden Age, which still they do describe him as being buff for that.
Yes, yeah.
But looking at the physique, Superman in the physique of a regular fit dude, or Superman in almost like not quite Hulk, but like a big hulking muscles. This is for me. This is the happy medium. This is
okay, yeah.
I like this size in Superman. I like that he's.
I don't dislike it at all. It's just funny because he could very much have the proportions of Peter Parker, and it would not take away from what he's able to do, because there is no connection, except that we as the reader want certain images for our heroes, just like certain images for our villains. They always are particular colors, or they're always ugly, or they're always, all of these tropey things that we have been taught to associate over the years with our heroes and villains. Nowadays, in real life, one could just as much look like the other, and we would not be able to tell. There is no, I'm sorry for anybody listening out there. Okay, ready? This is big. All the good guys don't wear white hats, and all the black guys do not wear black hats. No. I'm sorry, but okay. So back to Superman. So he's standing there, big, broad chest. Cape fluttering in the wind because he's on a mountaintop, right? Fluttering so much that one edge of the cape he has grasped to keep it in control for the picture. Because if not, it might, flop back over his face, or he might be fighting. But he's striking this. You can tell the cameraman, he's like, okay, stand right there. Okay, hang on. And he hits this pose, grabs the cape, pow. And this is the image. Very much so that, like I said at the top, I think that somewhere early along the way, this is an image that popped into Byrne's head, and he's like, this is where I'm going to finish. This is going to be, if not, there could be an epilogue I need to drop, but this will be one of the last things I leave my readers with in my version of Superman for this series. Pow. And Superman thinks, come back. Okay, he says he in his head he's thinking this bubbles as we see this image. I may have been conceived out there in the endless depths of space, them, but I was born when the rocket opened on Earth in America, us. I'll cherish always the memories of Jor-El and Lara gave me, but only as curious mementos of a life that might have been. Krypton bred me, but it was Earth that gave me all I am, all that matters.
All that matters?
Superman, right there, pow, that's him. If you could boil it down, this image and that last word balloon, there's all you need to know about this character.
It's two more balloons right below his fist.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. It was Krypton that made me Superman, but it is the Earth that makes me human. Those are good, but I like the bubble up at the top.
I mean, it's they really felt that they had to impress upon this idea so much that really he's saying it 3 times in this page.
Mm-hmm.
He's just saying it 3 different ways. I may have been conceived in the endless depths of space, but I was born when the rocket opened in America. Krypton bred me.
Right.
But it was the Earth that gave me all that I am, all that matters. And then the third time, it was Krypton that made me Superman, but it's the Earth that makes me human.
And here, So we have no doubts that in all appearances, you could consider Superman a them, but Superman, as far as he is concerned, and so that is as much as we should be concerned with, is an us.
Yep.
Yeah. So there we go.
I will say, well, I've already mentioned that this is probably of the 6 issues of this miniseries, this is my least favorite. This final page, while it's not, I'm not going to say I dislike it in regard to the look and the art, but for me, this is not John Byrne's best Superman. And I think that's one of the reasons why when I read it a couple of years back for the first time since 1986, I think that's one of the reasons why I got to the end of this series and just kind of went wah wah, because for the final panel of the wholly important reboot of Superman, the last page, which is a splash page, I don't know, I just expected a better image of Superman. I mean, if we let's go back 1, 2, 3 pages when he's with Ma and Pa Kent in the field. The very last panel on that page, when he flies away and says, "I've got to think," even though it's so small, you don't really see a lot of definition. I almost prefer that panel.
It's a cooler pose. I'll give you that. Yeah, but I can't really, if I were looking for a, my favorite panel of the book or anything like that, I can't use it because he's so small. For me, there's not enough definition.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Given that this image like this, he could have chosen to do a full page of it if he'd wanted to.
Yeah.
So, now that would have been way impressive, I think.
Well, and I almost wonder if somebody other than Dick Giordano inked this final page.
Okay. It could be. We were rushed at the time to get it out, or
if you slap this page in front of me, just the art, I'd never seen it before. I don't know that I would immediately go, "Oh, that's John Byrne."
Okay. I bet the whole image you would be able to tell, but if you just had a clip of like the head, to me, the head,
it's the face that does it. That
the hair and the head look the least Byrne.
Yeah.
Now I say that, but I assume but Byrne is capable of inking, and he has inked his own stuff. So it could be, after everything else, what we're looking at is a Byrne ink job, and so that's why it's throwing us off, because up until now somebody else was doing it, and so I don't know.
I think he inked his first issue of Fantastic Four. I'm trying to remember which Byrne issue I read recently, because it has listed as the inker. It's like it's John Byrne, but it's whatever they call it when they scramble the letters.
Oh yeah.
It says it's a different name, but it's it's
It's
John Byrne.
him, but yeah. So and two, like we're talking about, it would be interesting, although doing it now this many years later would probably be very, very difficult. Ask someone involved in this piece of art, hey, who did this and who did that, and nowadays, shit, somebody's going to claim they did everything. Oh, I colored it, and it's like you've never colored anything before. What do you think? Yeah. So
now I will point out on this final page, if you look at the trunks on the I guess the right hand side of the trunks, there's one little fold almost.
There's a gather at the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not symmetrical with the other side. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that one little, because I remember when Jim Lee did that run on Superman with Brian Azzarello.
Yes. I was going to say Hush, but that was Batman.
Yeah.
Man of Tomorrow. Yeah, I forget what it was called.
I remember Jim Lee commenting on drawing how Superman is one of the easier characters to draw, because the way he put it is he's just the nude figure with lines at the wrist to donate where his sleeves to show where his sleeves ends, lines on the legs to show where his boots are. And then of course you got to draw the cape and the face and all that stuff, but you don't have to draw any, a lot of wrinkles and folds.
Right. Yeah. There's not a whole accoutrement. It's just,
right.
You just draw a person and then you just denote where the color goes. Sure.
And I think the way he put it was Superman minus the cape and the hair is the nude form with just lines drawn in to show where the trunks
and I absolutely could see that. And saying that, you look at his upper body, the deltoids and the different muscles under his arms, on his side, his the muscles down his thighs down to about his knees, maybe a little bit. So it's like John just opened up his anatomy book and set it over here and sketched out
All right, so give me some final thoughts. Give me some overall. How do you feel about the way this issue came? How it falls into being the final issue of this miniseries. How it made you feel when you finished it. How you feel about post-crisis Superman in general.
I'm not sorry that I read the series. I don't, looking back at it, feel that whatever negatively. Have there been things that I've read that entertained me more? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Now, part of that is because Superman is not my favorite character. I mean, if he were, I would probably feel differently if I read it then, or if I read it now, whenever I would have read it for the first time, which this particular series, this has been the first time I have read this series. Now, you mentioned before the death of Superman. I've read the death of Superman up until the appearance of the spoilers, the multiple Superman. I've read that part of the story probably 4 or 5 times. So I have read that before. So I'm not, this is not a read it once and put it away and don't think about it kind of thing. So this will be also in light of the fact that I am also reading Golden Age Superman. So I have a definite comparison now, that and this now moving forward. So I am glad that I read it, as far as filling in my Superman knowledge, which was completely lacking and still is. I'm nowhere near knowledgeable about Superman. This issue in particular kind of fell into my feelings that I have felt since like maybe the second issue, like maybe 3, 4, 5, and 6 have all kind of had this plateau of as far as each individual issue. First and second issue, there were, the first issue, hopefully that always is the biggest aha of any series. I mean, that's kind of the point of the first issue. And for the most part it did. Nothing really struck me or surprised me as far as what knowledge of Superman I did have and anything that Byrne did in the series. Again, probably a lot of that is the fact that Superman's not my favorite character, and so I'm not going to plant my flag on a hill and say, Superman, whatever. I don't know. This is forming my Superman. So now moving forward, my reaction might be, well, Byrne said it was this, and perhaps. There's a lot of Superman lore that I have been exposed to that was not even remotely addressed in this. So I am curious now, of course, moving forward about, are these other elements and people and places, are they still part, or actually they're not part until somebody introduces it later as if it is a new thing, characters and settings and things like that? Or are they are, but we just haven't gone back to it yet, which that's probably more a geek fan kind of way of thinking about it than anything else. If this was the first thing I had read about Superman, I wouldn't know any of that to have those kind of questions. So that's kind of my fault, or whatever. But just over the years, places and people that I know are part of the Superman that weren't addressed leave me thinking, well, what is their place? Probably because of an ad I saw in this issue. One thing that comes to mind most is, after Crisis on Infinite Earths, this is the redefining of Superman. I know here shortly after this 6th issue, in another month or two, there will be a redefining of Wonder Woman that occurs by George Perez, in part. But I have seen references that also Batman was redefined, but yet they didn't do it this way with the miniseries. They didn't do it with a restart of the book like they did Wonder Woman. So I have to question, well, did they really do it at all? Or are they just saying, well, our big three, we're going to reboot them all. And, it's like, I don't remember that Batman did that.
No, that seems to be like a reoccurring thing with DC, and it starts here. It's like, let's kind of reboot and start over. We'll tell new origin stories for everybody, all our characters except Batman. Don't touch. Yeah. We'll ignore all the stuff we didn't like beforehand.
You don't refresh Batman. You just put up a door and say everything on the other side of this door is no, and moving. It's like, well, but you're not doing what. Yeah. So, that's just an aside. Like I say, from looking at ads, there's an advert for the Wonder Woman book coming up, and they say basically the three, Batman and then Superman and now Wonder. I'm like, Batman.
They didn't do it. Yeah.
Yeah. As a whole, and that's with a W, whole. It was entertaining, which is the very first thing I look for in a comic book. Beyond that, I look forward to moving on and seeing what happens. Yes. Saying that, there is another advert in here that tells us that Superman in Action Comics will be coming up by Byrne and Giordano. Adventures of Superman by Wolfman and Ordway will be coming up, and Superman by Byrne and Austin will be coming up. 3 all-new series beginning next month. So, which isn't Superman the only new title, right? The Adventures of and Action are ongoing. So Byrne gets 2 of the 3.
Right. Yeah, the Adventures of Superman is basically Superman.
Okay.
They just retitle it and they keep the numbering. Just so they can have a new Superman number 1.
A new Superman, yeah. Start with the number 1, yeah. It was fun. It's good. I enjoyed talking about this. I look forward to, as this is the beginning, talking about more, which I think you have plans to. I don't know, not trying to give anything away or put any more Conan pressure on you or anything like that. So, if that's the case, I'll look forward to now with some sort of baseline, comparing it to, and again, I still have the Golden Age baseline, which is,
Yeah.
it's not even fair to call that a baseline because things have changed so much since those Golden Age stories that it's almost a different character. It truly is. So that's a comparison, although in a fun way.
Yeah.
Comparing to this will be more a comparison of, well, but this is the way it's supposed to be, because I mean they made the point of saying this and doing it. So this is your zero, right? And so if you're moving forward, this is what you would have to compare. The Golden Age is like, yeah, I don't know what they were doing then. That was, so
the Golden Age, granted, this is post or pre-crisis, but of course the Golden Age became one of the universes. It's what, Earth 2 or something like that. But all right, so I have read, when it comes to John Byrne's run on Superman, these 6 issues, since, of course, reading them since for the first time in 1986, these 6 issues I've probably read more than anything else in his run over the last 5 years. And I know that the first time that I reread this, by the time I got to the end of this issue, I was, I remember going, oh, Man of Steel, it was the best comic ever back then. This was my introduction to Superman. And I felt really let down. Like my memories were letting me down when I read this.
Sure.
And I think it's because we expect a 6-issue miniseries that's supposed to reboot a major character to be, I guess, like I said, a linear story, but, and so for a long time, whenever I would reread this, whenever I'd go, okay, I got to get back into Superman again, John Byrne Superman, I can never just say, I got to get back into John Byrne Superman without having to start all over from the beginning again. That's just the way I've always been. But it was just recently that I kind of started thinking about this 6-issue miniseries in a different way, and it made me enjoy it a little bit more. I mean, I like it. This will always have a warm spot in my heart, and it's always going to be something that I'm going to recommend to Superman fans who've never read any of the John Byrne Superman stuff. You got to start with Man of Steel, but I would now add a caveat to that. I would say the 6-issue John Byrne Man of Steel series is like the prologue in the Lord of the Rings movies. In the very first movie, they had that 15, 20-minute prologue that tells you everything about the world, tells you, basically so you know who Sauron is and the deal with the ring.
Right.
And that's what I think this is. This is just here's kind of everything you need to know before you start the actual series. I still feel like issue 6 was kind of a shit. I forgot to add some things, and let's just toss it all here at this issue number 6. I don't feel like Man of Steel is a self-contained miniseries that you can, I mean, obviously you can read it and go, okay, that's the origin of Superman. But yeah, it would be like watching the prologue portion of the first movie of Lord of the Rings and then going, all right, I don't need to see the rest of this.
Saying that this is the origin of Superman is not, I just don't think it's accurate. It just isn't, No. And not to you, but I mean, other people have said that and I've seen that and I'm like, it's
the, I mean, it is because it shows how Superman got to Earth, why he's Superman, why
I think origins are kind of a difficult word.
Yeah. I think it would make more sense to call it an origin if it was a linear story.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Because it's like they focus on the origin in issue 1 and then the rest is just establishing the world, just getting you used to Superman being in this world.
Right.
Before the main series.
I think actually I like what you said. This is the prologue of Superman.
Yeah.
Because you made reference to the Lord of the Rings. Well, shit, what about all the other writings that he had that didn't come into fruition for him? What about the Silmarillion? What about, I mean, all these other things that, like, well, any of those could be the origin. Yeah, it's like, no, this is more a prologue to catch you up on the big stuff. This
Yep.
is Superman. Here's some big characters. Here's a little bit about why he's Superman, and now let's move on. Because
It's, I mean, so you can, when you pick up Superman #1, which I think at the time came out the week following this, maybe.
Oh, really? Wow. That's,
I think if, maybe, I don't
that's
remember. I'm
back to
gonna
back.
look real quick, but, or the next month. I'm on Mike's Amazing World. Let me look real quick. September 1986. Boo, boo, boo. There. No, so it's October then, I guess, so it's the next month when issue number. Well, let's see. So issue number 6 was the last week of September. So we go into October. Superman #1. This makes for a captivating. Superman #1, first week of October. So yeah, probably the very next week.
Next week, but, 2 weeks at the longest, depending on how the calendar fell out.
So yeah, I think it's one of those books that I feel like if you're a Superman fan, you should read it if you haven't. Just keep in mind that I think, like I said, it's more like a prologue.
Yeah.
You're not getting a linear story. You're getting a series of vignettes.
Hitting on some high points. Yeah. Just hitting on some high points.
Establishing certain things about the new. And again, I think the main thing that the 6th issue here really kind of hammers it home. I think the main thing that they wanted to focus on with this whole 6-issue series is that he was born on Earth, period.
Okay.
Because there's certain things that they had to establish. That was one change they wanted to make. They also wanted to make the change that he is the sole survivor of Krypton.
Right.
Of course, changes later.
It always changes. I mean, it started in the Golden Age, that was the case, but it changed. And so anytime they try to do that, it's like, yeah, but you get rid of all of this. We can't get rid of all that. So it pops back up. Yeah.
They depower him for this. This new Superman is not as powerful as Silver Age Superman, though we know based on some of the more modern versions of Superman, that's kind of gone out the window because he's just as powerful as he was in the Silver Age. But yeah, I that's why I said at the very beginning that I've been really looking forward to talking about this issue with you because I wanted to see what your thoughts were. But I was also not looking forward to look. Yeah, I didn't want these 6-issue or talk about these 6 issues to end on kind of a downer. But
no, it's not a downer. It's a could it have been done? Could it have been done differently?
Yeah.
Yes. Would those differences have been more appealing? Potentially, just depending on what the differences were. You can't say could it have ended better because to me it's like, well, I don't think it was bad. I mean, it was one creator's choice of what to do, and somebody else could have done it, and I would have been like more. Meh. Somebody else could have done it, and I'd have been like, hell yeah, or I mean, it just
never know.
Whatever, yeah.
Doug says, I always thought it was more of a springboard into the ongoing titles and a standalone story. And yeah, I think, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. I love Man of Steel. I'm probably going to read it again 4 or 5 more times before I'm dead. It's an essential piece of Superman history. It's an essential piece of Superman lore.
Very much.
But I am looking forward to getting into the other stuff beyond this. Now, you mentioned Golden Age and this stuff. I guess I'll just real quick just mention that the plan at this point is,
which I was going to ask.
Each season of the Superman Super Show I've separated each season now into 12 episodes.
12 episodes, okay.
This episode represents the final episode, or episode number 12 of season 7.
Of this season, okay.
So the first 6 episodes of season 7 were Golden Age.
Right.
And then the last 6 episodes of season 7 were these post-crisis. So that's basically what we're going to do going forward. So in the 2 weeks after this episode comes out will be the first episode of season 8, and we'll be going back to Golden Age. So we'll do 6 episodes Golden Age, and then we'll do 6 more post-crisis. And that's just first half of every season going forward will be Golden Age, and the second half will be post-crisis until we decide not to do it that way anymore. Right?
Yeah, I like that. No reason to change it.
Yeah.
I do have a
Go ahead.
The Golden Age is pretty much, there's only one way to cover it in talking about Superman's appearances. Yeah. That makes sense. In the next post-crisis, the next 6 issues, will it be 6 issues of a book, or will it be 1 issue of each book? Or will it be chronological regardless of which book? Or have you had any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I would like to do, so when we get to the next 6 post-crisis issues, because I don't know off the top of my head if any of those issues, I don't know if there's any storylines that, like, the end of Superman 5 is continued in Action Comics.
Crossover. Okay.
Yeah. I don't think it's like that at first. It may eventually get like that. So,
right.
The next 6 post-crisis issues, I think we should just can read them in the order in which the episode, or the order in which the issues were released.
Okay, publication order. Okay, yeah, that's cool.
So yeah.
Okay.
Do cool you? Beans. All right. So as we're wrapping stuff up, do you have a favorite scene, a favorite panel, a favorite moment from this issue?
Probably my favorite panel is going to be that of him flying with the cape, bending down, almost like additional limbs.
Capes hanging down.
Yeah, coming not quite at us, but he's flying kind of at an angle. And I really like that, just because it's a different view of that character. The standing, like in the final panel, the standing with the cape. That has been done ad nauseum, not just for him, but for other characters with capes, whether they be the Dark Knight, or I've seen that for Martian Manhunter. I've seen it, so it's like, yeah. And just because of my impression, my favorite scene is this whole thing about Lana Lang dumping emotional poo-poo on Clark. I think the scene could have been constructed so much better than what we saw, than the version that got published. Yeah. It just, I found it amusing because of its high intensity emotion, perhaps too much, and what I perceive as the contradiction in several of the things that Lana says, or what she says as opposed to what she said she did or wanted to do or something. But the information that Lana gives us is kind of conflicting at points, I think. So in a sickly kind of voyeuristic kind of way, that is probably my favorite scene from the issue.
Kind of like when you love a movie that's bad and you love
exactly that kind of thing. Yeah, it's like, no, I'll recommend it to somebody just because of why I enjoy it, not because of how good it is. It's
yeah, and I do feel like that whole scene. It just feels like, because I know, like I said, I know that there's an issue, I think, of Superman that has Lana in it, that she's in danger. Superman has to save her. And in order for the stakes to feel more desperate, you have to know how important she is to his past. And it's like, they get to issue 6 and he's like, oh yeah, we got to remind people about Lana. So here's the nail that has all that information, and I'm just going to nail it right into your head.
You're right. Yep.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. Given some thought, I think I could come up probably with a better way to have provided that whole thing than what we saw. And I'm by no means, overly creative or a writer or any, but I'm like, experience of having seen that played out in all kinds of times and ways, and I think I could put together a better way of doing that.
And it does make you wonder how much of that, and how much of the way that these 6 issues are set up, how much of that is Byrne and how much of it is DC editorial.
Well, that's a good point, because we have seen Byrne being capable of being much more fluid in his storytelling than this was. So it's like,
if he had not just come off of the X-Men and then the Fantastic Four.
Wow. Yeah.
I would wrap it. He's still kind of new to the writing thing. No, he was on Fantastic Four for 5 years, writing that all by him. So I know that he has, of course, we all know John Byrne can be a little outspoken.
Yes.
And I know he's talked about the here's what I wanted to do with Superman. Here's what they wanted to do with Superman. One of the things that he's talked about, of course, is this idea that DC did not want there to be a Superboy. That was one of their edicts.
Right.
They said, we don't want any, he's the only survivor. His powers don't show up until he's almost an adult, so there will not be a Superboy.
Right.
And at one point, John Byrne was like, well, are you still going to have the Legion of Superheroes? Because their whole deal is that they were inspired by historical, adventures of Superboy, not Superman. Superboy is what inspired them. And he even, he becomes a member of the Legion of Superheroes.
Eventually, right, yeah.
He goes, so doesn't that kind of wipe out the Legion of Superheroes? And they just, I don't know, they kind of brushed it off. And then I think at one point after Superman, the Man of Steel had been going, and maybe it was into a little later in the run, DC was like, what are we going to do about Legion of Superheroes? And he was like, I told you guys about that. Were you not listening to me? So some of this, a lot of this could be DC editorial just saying, you have to do these. Here's the list of things.
Just what has to be covered. Yeah.
It's like, as long as you establish these items going forward, unless you want to kill Superman or make him gay, we're gonna let you do whatever you want, but you have to do this stuff. So my favorite scene of this issue is the scene where Jonathan hits the hologram Jor-El with the shovel.
Okay.
It's my favorite scene for 2 reasons. Now let's ignore the fact that transitioning from Clark talking to Lana to then Clark in costume out in the field and the Kents trying to find him, because that was a horrible transition. We have no idea what happened. Anyway, when I love the fact that when Jonathan sees his boy in apparent danger, his first instinct is to grab a shovel out of the back of that fucking truck and go smack the bad guy in the back with it. He's going to kick.
And with that, he knows full well that Clark is Superman. I mean, it's not like he doesn't know at this point. He know, and he's still his instinct is
it's that what do they call it? The prehistoric lizard instinct of a father and a parent to just defend their child no matter what.
Grab the damn shovel. Yeah.
The other reason I like this scene so much is, so the page where he hits the hologram with the shovel, it ends with, the hologram kind of blowing up. And, up to this point, the biggest Superman property at that point would have been the movie that came out in the 70s. And in that movie, Jonathan dies. I don't remember Jonathan's status in the Silver Age. He may have died in the Silver Age as well. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But I feel like this scene was also kind of a way for us to, we get to the bottom of that page and we go, oh, is this where Jonathan dies? And then when he doesn't,
okay.
you're like, oh wow, they're not going to kill Jonathan this time, And he does stick around for a while. I think he almost dies during the death of Superman. Okay. But yeah, he sticks around for a while. That was my favorite scene. Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to say about Man of Steel?
Other than actually, I am looking forward to moving on into post-crisis books. Right now, I'm looking forward to jumping back into the Golden Age because I've missed that. But I am looking forward to post-crisis.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say that when we get to Superman #1, it will answer the question of where the rocket went, who took it, who that shadowy guy was that we saw a couple of times in the issue. But I think I said it already. It's like when you find out, you're like, because it's nobody. It's nobody we've ever met before,
right? But that's okay. It all has to start somewhere. So right. I mean, it's like okay. Yeah.
But it does lead to, and you get it all in that first issue. It does lead to the origin of a fairly major superhero or Superman villain. So
okay, cool beans.
All right, so in our next episode, it's back to foreign spies, international intrigue, and the golden age of Superman. As Ed and myself, we take a look at the Deucalion spy ring. This is the fourth story to appear in Superman #10 from March of 1941. Will Lois be captured? And can Superman save her if she is? Ed, what do you think?
I say yes, she does get captured. And yes, Superman does save her. I'll pick both.
Wow. That I don't know if I can read it now that you've spoiled it for me.
Spoiled it. Oh, man. But the cool thing is that if that happens, both of those will happen in 13 pages or less. All of that in just 13 pages.
There's a good chance that more will happen in that story than happened in the entire 6 issues of the Man of Steel.
In far less pages. Yes, it is very possible. Yeah.
Yep. It's what I love about them Golden Age stories.
Oh man, they are packed.
Oh, love them. I still will sometimes sit down and go, oh, remember that story in the orphanage in the basement?
In the basement of the orphanage.
The bad guy that Superman is going up against is an old man, and he has Superman on the ropes for a lot of that story.
Yeah. What is the horror movie franchise? Saw? It's like a Saw movie down there in the basement. Yeah. It's like, oh wow, yeah, that's
good stuff. I may have to go reread that. All right, folks. Until next time, I'm Steven. That's Ed. And this was the Superman Super Show. Bye.
Ciao.
All right, I'm going to save this recording. So yeah, my recording is 3 hours, 9 minutes, and 57 seconds long.
9 minutes. Okay, yeah, mine was right at that 3:09:59, I believe was mine here. Yeah.
And I know that we had started recording, of course, before we actually started
about
the episode, but
45 minutes or so.
Yeah, it's like 40. So we've been live for 3 hours and 47 minutes. So yeah, this is like a 3-hour long episode, probably. Okay, so this is Superman Super Show 84. Steven. Boom. Saving. And if we had started at the normal time,
oh man,
it'd be what,
after 2:00?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. For those of you who are still watching live, thank you so much for joining us today and for participating.
Yes, very much so.
We love the participation. We love the questions. We love the feedback. We love the comments, and we love to share them during the show. So Doug and Tonka Sr., thank you for joining us today. And I think I'll stop the live stream now.
All righty.